This scene immediately changed the expressions of Jiang Chengxuan and the others. They hadn't anticipated that the demonic cultivators would possess the ability to control these mutated creatures. Utilizing them, the enemy could significantly wear down the grand array they were tasked with defending. "It seems we must take action now," Gudu Beifei declared gravely. Yang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and perfected Lord Vast River had no objections to his suggestion. At that moment, everyone immediately gathered all the cultivators on the island and gave them orders to target the monsters that had already mutated in the sea. Fortunately, their array allowed them to attack from the inside out. This meant they could strike at enemies outside the array without leaving its protection. In fact, under the enhancement of the array, the power of everyone's attacks could be increased to a certain extent. Soon, a barrage of Dharma treasures, divine powers, talismans, and spells rained down on the mutated creatures. Boom, boom, boom. In the blink of an eye, the sea erupted in massive bursts of flame. The sea creatures, now completely devoid of sentience and thoroughly monstrous, were met with the full force of the cultivators' onslaught. Thousands were slain instantly, their blood staining the sea red. However, the sea teemed with an endless number of these creatures. No sooner had one wave been repelled than another followed, then another, and another. In just half a day, some cultivators began to feel the strain, their dharmic power and energy nearing depletion. "We can't keep this up." Perfected Lord Vast River looked at the countless mutated monsters in the sea that were still densely packed outside the array, and could not help but say in a deep voice, "We have to create time for everyone to rest. Even if we can hold out for now, we won't last much longer." Also, suddenly, a killing intent flashed past perfected Lord Vast River's eyes. "If possible, it's best if we can get rid of the fellows who drive these deformed monsters. Only then can you and I resolve the problem in front of us once and for all." It was undeniable that perfected Lord Vast River's words made sense in theory. But in reality, it was very difficult to do. Especially the part about eliminating the demonic cultivators controlling the mutated creatures. How could they be sure these individuals weren't just bait? Given the numbers and strength on both sides, relying on the array, they could continue to resist the enemy. However, leaving the safety of the array to confront these demonic cultivators directly would be perilously risky. So, at this point, the best approach for Jiang Chengxuan and his group was to arrange a rotation of personnel to utilize the array's power to resist the attacks of the demonic cultivators. As it turned out, this strategy proved to be correct. In the following period, several cultivators who ventured out of the array to engage the demonic cultivators in direct combat ended up being killed, almost causing the array they were defending to be breached. With such a tragic lesson in front of them, even though Jiang Chengxuan and the others prided themselves on being extraordinary, they did not have the intention to casually risk their lives. Just like that, they persisted in their defense for nearly half a year. By this time, the number of mutated sea creatures killed by them and the array had become innumerable. Meanwhile, in the skies above the array, the group of demonic cultivators grew increasingly impatient. A man with a long scar on his face suddenly narrowed his eyes and said to everyone present, "Everyone, since things have come to this, it's about time for you and me to attack. Otherwise, if we continue to delay like this, it will be a waste of time. However, if we delay the mission given by the Supreme One, it will be our fault." Upon hearing his words, the other late-stage nascent soul demonic cultivators showed signs of agreement. One of the extremely enchanting women smiled and said, "Fellow Taoist Tian Luo is right. However, what should we do next to break the array of the guys below?" Hearing this woman's words, the scar-faced man couldn't help but smile sinisterly. He raised his hand and flipped it. An orb surrounded by endless demonic chi appeared in his hand, but it flickered with endless black lightning. "Divine demonic orb. I believe everyone has been bestowed with this treasure by his lordship before coming, right?" This treasure contained a large amount of demonic chi and could contaminate every spiritual thing in this world. Even arrays and divine powers can be contaminated by it. After that, combined with you, me, and everyone else, I don't believe that those guys can still hold on. Hearing Tian Luo's words, a trace of reluctance flashed across the eyes of the enchanting woman and the other 5 grand demonic cultivators. One had to know that the divine demonic orb that Tian Luo had taken out was a rare treasure. 2. Everyone basically only had one of those orbs. If they were used here, they would undoubtedly lose a powerful trump card from their possession. However, they also knew that what Tian Luo just said was correct. If they delayed here for too long, not only would it be a waste of time, but if they missed the tasks assigned to them by the Demon Lord, that would be a serious issue. Thinking of this, the enchanting woman smiled and nodded. So be it, I have no objections then. Seeing her agreement, the other 5 demonic cultivators also nodded in unison. In that case, let's do as fellow Taoist Tian Luo says. As they spoke, the demonic cultivators no longer hesitated and personally took to the field, approaching the spiritual island of the vast river where Jiang Chengxuan and others were located. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan and the other cultivators tensed up. Was it finally time for a direct confrontation? Unsettlingly, Jiang Chengxuan and others' alarm bells rang. They knew very well about demonic cultivators. The fact that these individuals were taking to the field themselves meant they must have full confidence. If they weren't careful, it could deal a fatal blow to their current defenses. Indeed, just as Tian Luo and the others were about 50 kilometers away from the spiritual island of the vast river, an orb appeared in Tian Luo's hand. What is that? Seeing the orb in Tian Luo's hands, Jiang Chengxuan and others' expressions changed. However, before they could react, Tian Luo had already completely activated the divine demonic orb and shot towards the spiritual island of the vast river. Rumble! In an instant, deep and dark lightning burst forth. Huge waves of demonic aura, like surging seawater, instantly crashed against the array. Instantly, the light of the Jade light flying immortal array flickered. Its surface was covered in a thick layer of black fog. This seemed to slow down the operation of the entire array. Not good, that thing can contaminate our array. Perfected Lord Vast River's expression changed instantly. Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, Dugu Beifei, and Sidu Xiang, all nascent soul, also looked extremely grave. He did not expect the other party to have such a thing. If they allowed the enemy to continue a few more times, their array might not hold. Buzz! At that moment, a green bottle suddenly appeared in Perfected Lord Vast River's hand. A hint of pain flashed across his reluctance. But in the next moment, he decisively opened the bottle. A burst of green light surged into the array, targeting the areas contaminated by the black fog. Kai 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 kai. As soon as the green light touched the black fog, they reacted violently. It seemed like they were corroding each other, emitting a series of shrill noises. This was accompanied by thick white smoke. If you don't take action now, when will you? Tian Luo suddenly spoke in a deep voice. Hearing his words, the enchanting woman and the other 5 great demonic cultivators immediately chuckled. Fellow Taoist Tian Luo, calm down, will help you. As they spoke, an orb appeared in the hands of the enchanting woman and the others. Perfected Lord Vast River and the other perfected. Buzz! The 6 orbs were simultaneously launched towards the island. Oh no! Seeing this, Perfected Lord Vast River, Dugu Beifei, Sidu Xiang, and the others could no longer remain calm. They knew very well the power of the divine demonic orb just demonstrated. Once the 6 divine demonic orbs struck their Jade light flying immortal array at the same time, it would probably be very difficult for their array to resist. Jiang Chengxuan also spoke in a low voice. Everyone, we must act together now. We cannot let those things hit our array. Again. With that, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan attacked first. Clang clang. The 2 of them unleashed the golden void sword and the 5 lightning immortal slayer at the same time. In an instant, 2 streaks of light like flying ribbons swiftly targeted 2 of the divine demonic orbs. At the same time, Dugu Beifei, Sidu Xiang. Lords were not idle. They each launched their attacks on the remaining divine demonic orbs. However, they were met with counterattacks from Tian Luo, the enchanting woman, and the other demonic cultivators. If our divine demonic orbs were so easily destroyed by you, then we would be too incompetent. As they spoke, Tian Luo and the others also made their move. In an instant, the true treasures surrounded by layers of demonic light faced Jiang Chengxuan and the others. At the same time, the 7 of them also used various divine powers and spells to attack the Jade light flying immortal array. This was to block Jiang Chengxuan and his team's attacks and to add more pressure to the array. You're courting death. Seeing this, a cold light flashed in Jiang Chengxuan's eyes. Immediately, the nascent soul in his body opened its eyes wide. In the next moment, a rainbow of green, red, yellow, white, and blue light suddenly formed a ribbon-like shape behind him. With a swoosh, it swept past Tian Luo and his group, along with their true treasures, spells, and divine powers. Tian Luo, who was originally smug, immediately discovered in shock. At this moment, their dharmic powers, mental strength, and even the power of various spells and divine powers decreased by 30%. How come? Before they could understand this phenomenon, several divine lights suddenly shot out from the dual polarity divine mountain above Xianxia. In a blink of an eye, the true treasures of Tian Luo and his group lost their luster and fell towards the sea below. What? While Tian Luo and his companions were still in shock, Shen Ruyan's falling thunder seal erupted with countless thunders. With a series of loud booms, terrifying thunderbolts instantly penetrated through many demonic divine powers and spells. Seeing this, the South Sea immortals and perfected Lord Vast River also joined in. All of a sudden, the sky, which was already filled with flames, became even more dazzling. Various true treasures, divine powers, and spells were almost incessant. Rings of circular ripples continuously spread in all directions. Boom! Finally, when Jiang Chengxuan and his group barely blocked the attacks of the demonic cultivators, their true treasures also struck the incoming divine demonic orbs. Rumble! In that instant, blinding black lightning erupted in the sky. The immense and terrifying power turned everything within 100 miles into a forbidden zone. All life within this range, like vaporized liquid, vanished without a trace. Suddenly, the expressions of Dugu Beifei, perfected Lord Vast River, and the others changed. Not good, our true treasures have been contaminated. In the center of the explosion, several true treasures which were once shining brilliantly were now dim. What's worse, some were entangled with layers of demonic aura. This directly affected their spiritual nature. Arg! With this, several early-stage nascent soul cultivators on Jiang Chengxuan's side were severely injured. They spat out a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had already reached the level of grand cultivators. The true treasures they took out were not contaminated or damaged. Damn it! However, at this moment, the ones who were the angriest were Tian Luo and his clique. Chapter 563. The Slaying Wheel breaking the deadlock, divine power, formlessness, instantly kill. It should be noted that the divine demonic orbs they had just used were one of their trump cards. However, they had failed to serve their intended purpose as trump cards. Although they had severely injured several nascent soul early-stage cultivators, this had little impact on the overall situation. No, if we rely on our current strength, I'm afraid it won't be so easy to break through their array. At this moment, a man with long blood-colored hair spoke in a low voice. Hearing his words, the expressions of Tian Luo and the others darkened. Tian Luo said, "Blood River, what do you mean? Are we going to give up on this place just like that?" The man called Blood River immediately shook his head when he heard that. "Not at all. I'm thinking whether we can invite more people to help us, or find an artifact specifically designed to counter their array." Everyone's interest was piqued by his suggestion. In the next moment, the enchanting woman said, "Do you already have a plan?" Blood River did not keep them in suspense as he said, "I heard that the demon illusionist has a thing called the Slaying Wheel that specializes in dealing with all kinds of protective arrays. If we can borrow this treasure from him, I believe that the Jade light-flying immortal array will no longer be able to stop us." Slaying Wheel. The enchanting woman shook her head. It's probably not that easy to borrow the Slaying Wheel from Demon Illusionist. Don't forget, Demon Illusionist also needs that treasure. Not necessarily. However, Blood River smiled and shook his head. As far as I know, Demon Illusionist's attainments in array have already reached level 5. Even without the Slaying Wheel, he has a high chance of breaking the array on his side. Most importantly, he has more than one Slaying Wheel. More than one. Upon hearing Blood River's words, Tian Luo and the enchanting woman were stunned. That's right. Blood River nodded. The Slaying Wheel in his hand is said to be the primary body of the Slaying Wheel. Besides that, he also possesses several subunits of the wheel, which are equally effective in eroding defensive arrays. I see. Upon hearing this, the group was enlightened. If that was the case, then with their identities, it wouldn't be particularly difficult for them to obtain a part of the slaying wheel from the hands of demon illusionist. The only problem was who should do this now. As if reading everyone's minds, Blood River looked up at them and smiled. Since I brought this up, I should be involved in this task. I only need one more person to accompany me. The group exchanged glances. Soon, a man adorned with a necklace of white bones spoke up. I will go with Blood River. I have some acquaintances with demon illusionist. He should be willing to lend us for my sake. No one had any objections to this. Soon, Blood River and the man wearing a white bone necklace, known as Dry Bone, headed to the place where illusionist was stationed. As for the remaining 5, they continued to order all the demonic cultivators to attack the spiritual island of the vast river. On the spiritual island of the vast river, Xianxia and the others looked at Blood River Dry Bone, who had suddenly left. Their eyes could not help but narrow. Xianxia said, "Husband, something doesn't seem right. For those two to choose to leave at this time, there must be something going on." "Yeah." Xianxia nodded in agreement. "However, no matter why they left, since there are only 5 grand demonic cultivators left, perhaps you and I can." "Huh, you mean?" Shenruyan's eyes flickered. Xianxia nodded again. "That's right, I was just thinking about how we should weaken them. After all, it's not good for us to continue defending. Since 2 of them have already left, with our current strength, we might be able to kill the rest." At this point, a cold killing intent flashed across Jiang Chengshuan's eyes. "We can do this." As he spoke, Jiang Chengshuan explained his thoughts to Shen Ruyan. Shen Ruyan nodded in agreement. Next, the 2 of them found the 2 South Sea immortals and perfected Lord Vast River and told them their thoughts. When the 2 South Sea immortals and perfected Lord Vast River heard that, they were clearly shocked. They did not expect Jiang Chengshuan and his wife to have such crazy thoughts. They actually wanted to leave the array to kill those demonic cultivators. Chapter 564, The Slaying Wheel Breaking the Deadlock, Divine Power Formlessness, instantly killed 2. But soon, the 2 South Sea immortals and perfected Lord Vast River reacted. Given the current situation, this might be their only chance to turn the tables. However, they wondered if this was also a tactic to lure them into a trap or ambush. Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan had anticipated these concerns. Jiang Chengshuan explained, "There may be some risks, but remember, if we continue to defend passively, the risks are even greater. Even if they have set up an ambush, it doesn't mean they can succeed." As he spoke, Jiang Chengshuan's figure began to disappear in front of everyone, fading away as if being wiped off with a cloth. Despite their efforts to find him, they couldn't detect his presence. This was Jiang Chengshuan's secret divine power, formlessness. Initially effective only against golden core cultivators, Jiang Chengshuan had recently broken through its limitations. At this moment, as long as he did not take the initiative to use his dharmic power and attack, no one below the soul formation could sense his existence. Reappearing before them, Jiang Chengshuan's demonstration left everyone in shock. Perfected Lord Vast River couldn't help but ask about the technique. "Fellow Taoist Jiang, that is." Jiang Chengshuan smiled and said, "This is my secret divine power. As long as a soul formation cultivator doesn't appear, almost no one can sense my existence. In a while, I will use this divine power to hide behind the 5 demonic cultivators and strive to take the opportunity to kill one first. After that, you will attack the remaining people according to the actual situation. In any case, you and I have the array as our backing. Even if we really encounter any accidents, we can retreat into the array." I wonder what everyone thinks. Dugu Beifei, Sidu Xiang, and perfected Lord Vast River looked at each other. In the end, they all nodded in agreement with Jiang Chengshuan's action. Jiang Chengshuan's figure then vanished again, slipping out of the array without a trace. Long before this, Jiang Chengshuan had already determined the target he wanted to take down this time. It was a man with countless fire patterns on his face. The reason why Jiang Chengshuan chose him was very simple. This person's cultivation could be considered the lowest among the 7, barely reaching the 7th level of nascent soul. But even so, the other party was still a nascent soul cultivator. If he died, it would definitely be a huge loss for the demonic cultivators. These thoughts flashed through his mind. Jiang Chengshuan had already arrived behind that demonic cultivator. At this moment, the 5 of them were still talking to each other. He heard Tian Luo say, I wonder how long Blood River and Dry Bone will take to go. If those guys in the array do anything at this time, it will be troublesome for us. The enchanting woman let out a light laugh. She said, Tian Luo, you're worrying too much. Look at those guys. Do they look like people who would take risks like that? Besides, even if they really dare to take the risk with our strength, do you think we're afraid of them? That's right. At this moment, the man with many fire patterns on his face smiled and said, in my opinion, it would be best if we can lure them out of the array so that we can take them down in one fell swoop. Is that so? Of course, don't you know? Huh? Suddenly, the man with the fire pattern on his face felt that something was wrong. Just as he was about to turn around, he heard several angry shouts. How dare you? You're courting death. Swoosh. Accompanied by these voices, a faint golden sword light suddenly pierced out from the mouth of the man with fire patterns on his face. His eyes widened and his face was filled with fear. However, at this moment, the sword light that came out of his mouth suddenly emitted an extremely dazzling light. Boom! In that instant, the man's head evaporated into nothingness, leaving only the hissing sound of the swiftly moving sword light in the air. Whoosh! At the same time, as the body of the man with flame patterns collapsed like a building without a foundation, his entire being, including his demonic infant or nascent soul, turned into the tiniest particles of dust in the blink of an eye. Only then did Tian Luo and the enchanting woman, along with their two companions, reach the spot where the man had fallen. They looked at Jiang Chengxuan, who was now visible in the distance, with faces filled with rage. You're courting death. Boom! Above Tian Luo's head, countless mournful wails echoed, followed by a long blade wreathed in endless demonic flames, slashing towards Jiang Chengxuan with a piercing screech. Crack! However, meeting this blade was a long spear crackling with lightning. It was Shen Ruyan's lightning divine power, the seven-star thunder spear. There was a rumble as the powerful force of the thunderbolts evaporated most of the demonic chi on the blade. With a clang, the demonic blade wailed and was sent flying back towards Tian Luo. Lightning cultivator. Seeing Shen Ruyan slowly materializing in the void, Tian Luo and his companions were visibly perturbed. They knew well that lightning cultivators were the greatest bane to demonic cultivators, and unfortunately, Shen Ruyan was one such cultivator. Moreover, she was not an ordinary one, but a lightning cultivator with the combat power of a peak nascent soul. Rumble! Shen Ruyan then summoned another artifact, the falling thunder seal, marked with countless bolts of lightning. In the sky, bolts of lightning as thick as an arm kept falling from the seal and smashing towards the four of them. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan was not idle either. His figure rose rapidly, his robust chi and powerful strength manifesting as the shadows of a dragon and an elephant in the air. He then unleashed the demon-suppressing fist, channeled through his deep earth halberd. Boom! As the fist and halberd collided, a massive halberd light, capable of tearing the heavens and earth, enveloped in unparalleled demon-suppressing power, roared down towards Tian Luo and his companions. Damn it! At this moment, Tian Luo and his companions felt an unprecedented pressure. Despite being late-stage nascent soul demonic cultivators, with two at the peak, they still felt a tremendous threat from Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Squeak, squeak. Suddenly, a python with 3 heads and a body length of 900 feet appeared in front of the enchanting woman. Its entire body was covered in deep black scales, and its pupils were scarlet. As soon as it appeared, its 3 massive heads rose high, spewing the cruelest and most evil black demonic fire, wind, and water. Kai, 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 kai. In just a moment, the air was filled with the sound of intense corrosion. Seeing this, Tian Luo and the other two immediately launched their counterattacks. Boom, boom, boom. The collision of their forces created a massive whirlpool in the sea below, thousands of feet in length. Countless mutated creatures turned into blood mist under the impact of these rampant energies. Boom! At this moment, a majestic blue water dragon, composed entirely of water elements, lunged towards Tian Luo and his companions. Its formidable presence indicated that it was at the level of a late-stage nascent soul cultivator. And the one who attacked was none other than the 2 South Sea immortals, Dugu Beifei and Sidu Xiang. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged a glance and seamlessly coordinated their next move. Jiang Chengxuan conjured two flames in his hands, quickly transforming them into a red and white fireball. With a gentle push, the fireball, like a meteor, shot towards Tian Luo and his group, evaporating all the seawater in its path. At the same time, Shen Ruyan's true lightning divine seal on her forehead flickered with intense light. She became a being of thunder, conjuring various thunder-related divine powers and spells in her hands. Boom, boom, boom. In just moments, hundreds of thunder spells and divine powers were unleashed from her hands, raining down like droplets. This onslaught finally changed the expressions of Tian Luo and his companions. They realized that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had not been fighting at full strength until now. Without a moment to spare, the four unleashed their strongest attacks amidst the chaos of explosions, fire, and lightning. In this maelstrom, the enchanting woman's three-headed spirit python let out a scream as two of its heads were blown into a mist of blood. The enchanting woman herself suffered significant backlash, unable to hold back a mouthful of blood. Tian Luo and the other two demonic cultivators didn't fare much better, sustaining serious injuries. Swish, swish. Just then, two sounds of air being torn were heard by the remaining two demonic cultivators, causing them to shiver. A shield and a black tower immediately appeared in front of them. Ding ding! Two dazzling sparks immediately appeared on the shield and the black tower. But before they could even breathe a sigh of relief, a more terrifying sense of impending death suddenly filled their hearts. Not good. As the sense of imminent death intensified, the demonic cultivators realized they were in grave danger. But before they could fully react, two sword lights suddenly pierced through their bodies. Looking down in shock, they saw a golden sword light and another sword light tinged with streaks of lightning erupting from their chests with terrifying power. Their eyes widened in horror as Tian Luo and the enchanting woman, witnessing this from a distance, were struck with endless fear. In the next moment, the bodies of the two demonic cultivators collapsed, scattering into countless fragments along with their nascent souls, annihilated by the formidable power of the Heart Inquiry Sword. This was the same sword technique Jiang Chengxuan had used to slay the man with flame patterns on his face. "Run!" exclaimed Tian Luo and the enchanting woman, realizing the futility of further resistance. What started as a group of 5 powerful demonic cultivators was now reduced to just the 2 of them, hopelessly outmatched by Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Buzz. However, how could it be so easy for them to leave? A huge rock phantom suddenly flashed past behind Jiang Chengxuan. The next moment, his figure turned into a faint afterimage. He was so fast that he even lost all his aura. By the time Tian Luo and the enchanting woman reacted, Jiang Chengxuan had already collided with them. At this moment, Tian Luo and the enchanting woman clearly felt a terrifying aura that was like a ferocious beast suddenly erupt from Jiang Chengxuan's body. So much so that their bodies stiffened for a moment. Roar! In the end, it was the enchanting woman's 3-headed spirit python that reacted first. It roared angrily at Jiang Chengxuan. In the next moment, the huge python body that was like a mountain collided with Jiang Chengxuan head-on. Puff! Flesh and blood flew everywhere. It was as if the 3-headed demon spirit python's body had been ruthlessly crushed by a high-speed road roller. From head to toe, it exploded inch by inch. From the flesh to the bones, then to the internal organs and even its demon soul, it instantly turned into a pool of blood. As for Jiang Chengxuan, his body seemed to be intact. A powerful and terrifying aura continued to charge towards Tian Luo and the enchanting woman. The situation was as if they were about to be crushed, just like the 3-headed demonic spirit pythons, utterly annihilated. This sudden change caused the expressions of Tian Luo and the enchanting woman to turn into one of horror and fear. This monster! Boom! Finally, Tian Luo knew that it was useless no matter how he escaped. Thus, he began to burn his nascent soul essence. In the void, a long halberd, emanating a chilling demonic flame, suddenly thrust towards Jiang Chengxuan's charging body with fierce intensity. At the same time, the enchanting woman's eyes suddenly transformed into 2 deep, dark black holes, emanating swirling vortexes as if to pull Jiang Chengxuan's spirit into an unknown space. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan immediately felt it. In the depths of his mind, the vast universe divine Jade suddenly moved slightly. Then a milky white halo suddenly rippled out. Kai 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 kai. Within this halo of milky white light, a pitch-black, sticky air current, like ice and snow meeting the blazing sun, hissed and instantly vanished without a trace. Arg! At the same time, the enchanting woman in the outside world suddenly let out a miserable scream. She clutched her head desperately with both hands. From her eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, a viscous and dark purple-black blood flowed. Clearly, at this moment, her primordial spirit had suffered extremely severe damage. Boom! But at this very moment, a thunderbolt exhibiting red, white, yellow, blue, and green colors directly struck her. In an instant, a terrifying power erupted. Loud rumblings echoed. The enchanting woman's entire being was directly annihilated by the divine thunder, reduced to ashes. Clang! At the same time, a harsh metallic collision sounded. Facing the long halberd thrust by the Tian Luo, Jiang Chengxuan raised his deep earth halberd and met it with an incredibly fierce and domineering stance. Rumble! At the point where the two halberds, a dazzling light orb suddenly appeared. Quickly, the orb expanded rapidly. Eventually, it turned into swirling ripples stretching 100 feet. Crack! Tian Luo suddenly heard the sound of metal shattering in his ears. The long halberd in his hand was, at some unknown time, covered with dense cracks. Like a cracked porcelain, ready to shatter at any moment. Impossible! Tian Luo couldn't help but exclaim in shock. However, what answered him was a deep sonic boom. Because at this moment, Jiang Chengxuan had once again accelerated. In the path he traversed, a deep white mark clearly appeared in everyone's eyes, lingering for a long time, until a huge earth-yellow halberd light soared into the sky. Only then did everyone's ears hear a rumble deeper and larger than before. Black square till fight you to the death. Tian Luo's expression became unprecedentedly ferocious. So much so that the corners of his eyes completely burst, oozing crimson blood. His entire aura became as fierce and terrifying as an erupting volcano. Buzz! An extremely dazzling light suddenly burst out from his long spear. He was actually going to self-destruct his intrinsic true treasure. Die! Along with a roar, Tian Luo's halberd suddenly unleashed an unprecedented terrifying power. There was a loud bang. In the sky, a dazzling light burst forth, resembling a mini-sun. In this burst of light, infinite black demonic chi surged violently, seemingly devouring everything. But amidst this light, a figure like a ghost swiftly fled into the distance. It was none other than Tian Luo. Clearly, his true intention was neither to fight desperately nor to self-destruct his true treasure. His real purpose was to escape, taking advantage of the chaos. Swoosh! However, escaping was not so easy for Tian Luo at this stage of the battle. In front of him, a sword beam composed of 5-colored thunder loomed like a mountain, thunderously slashing towards him. Tian Luo's eyes almost popped out. He had not expected that the person who had just taken the opportunity to kill the enchanting woman would reappear, blocking his path. Damn it! He roared in his heart. But in the next moment, a pitch-black long knife, surrounded by rolling demonic flames, swiftly met the 5-colored thunderous sword beam. Boom! Without any hesitation, the black knife collided with the sword beam, emitting destructive waves. With a thunderous roar, the black knife was once again chosen by Tian Luo for self-destruction. Whoosh! Seizing this moment, he transformed into a shadowy figure, attempting to escape again. Hee, you're really willing to sacrifice your true treasures. A light laugh suddenly sounded in his ear. Tian Luo immediately sensed danger. At that moment, a sound like a fighter jet flying low echoed in his ears. In his pupils appeared a figure surrounded by golden flames. It was the Sun True Fire. Tian Luo was shocked. At this moment, there was clearly no time for him to do anything. He felt as if his body was being crushed by a huge mountain, accompanied by the purest fire in the world. He immediately let out the most miserable scream. Boom! In the end, the scream was swallowed by the pure fire and completely reduced to a wisp of dust in the sky. Ding! Congratulations, host. You have achieved the first kill of a grand demonic cultivator. You have received +1 demon-slaying talent, Heavenly Flame, Pure Yang True Fire. Demon-slaying talent. When fighting demonic cultivators, your combat strength will increase. The power of the demonic cultivators' attacks will be reduced accordingly. Heavenly Flame, Pure Yang True Fire. one of the top heavenly flames. It has the pure yang attribute and contains endless vitality. At the same time, it has a powerful restraining effect on evil creatures and even demonic cultivators. Immediately, Jiang Chengxuan held in his hand a fire that alternated between gold and white colors. This was one of the top-notch heavenly flames, the pure yang true fire. If the sun true fire from before had domineering, blazing, and destructive attributes, and it had an absolute restraining effect on all evil creatures and even demonic cultivators, then the pure yang true fire in Jiang Chengxuan's hand seemed much gentler. Apart from a strong and fierce side, he also felt a trace of gentleness and warmth from this flame. This flame, like a beacon of hope and despair, brought a sense of peace, warmth, and vibrant vitality. Jiang Chengxuan didn't expect such an unexpected gain from killing Tian Luo and others. At that moment, he, Shen Ruyan, and the others did not stay outside for long. After putting away the storage Dharma treasures, they quickly returned to the Jade light-flying immortal array. Upon returning, they immediately started to count their gains, knowing well that the demonic calamity was far from over. So, as long as it was possible, they had to seize the time to increase their combat strength. Under everyone's joint efforts, the storage Dharma treasure restrictions were quickly broken. In the storage treasures, they found numerous neatly stacked spiritual stones, totaling hundreds of thousands, all of top quality. Among them were also several spiritual stones emanating strange light and pure aura, which could increase one's dharmic power with a single breath. These were the extremely rare and coveted supreme-grade spiritual stones in the 9 essences cultivation world. This is a currency commonly used among soul formation heavenly lords. Unlike the low, mid, and top-grade spiritual stones, the supreme-grade spiritual stones not only contain a large amount of pure spiritual energy, but also have the effect of helping with breakthroughs. That is, a nascent soul cultivator, if fortunate enough to obtain a supreme-grade spiritual stone, can use it to break through a critical bottleneck in their cultivation. Furthermore, unlike low, mid, or top-grade spiritual stones, which turn to dust once their spiritual energy is depleted, the structure of supreme-grade spiritual stones is incredibly stable. Even if their spiritual chi is completely exhausted, the stone itself remains undamaged. In fact, if placed in a mid-grade or higher mine, over hundreds of years, these depleted supreme-grade spiritual stones might even be recharged with spiritual chi. In other words, supreme-grade spiritual stones are not one-time use, but can be recharged and reused. Besides these spiritual stones, the storage treasures contained many Dharma treasures and true treasures. However, these items were of no use to Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. They planned to melt down these demonic treasures and extract useful materials for redistribution when they had time. Next, they found some pills and jade slips containing cultivation techniques. These too were of no practical use to them, except for a few untainted spiritual items which were somewhat useful. After Jiang Chengxuan and the others had divided the contents of the storage treasures, they did not lower their guard. They knew that following Tian Luo and his companions, there were 2 more grand demonic cultivators. However, days passed without any sign of the fleeing Blood River and Dry Bone. Even after several months, there was still no trace of them, leading Jiang Chengxuan and his companions to suspect that these 2 had chosen to retreat upon learning of the battle situation. This was a likely scenario, as nothing is more important to a demonic cultivator than their own life, even if they felt that they already had a certain trump card. However, before they had absolute confidence, they would not choose to take the risk. And that was the truth. Upon learning of the fall of Tian Luo and his companions, Blood River and Dry Bone immediately retreated. Even though they had borrowed the slaying wheel from Demon Illusionist, they chose not to engage Jiang Chengxuan and the others lightly, but went to other areas to join forces with other demonic cultivators and attack weaker arrays. On this side, as time passed, Jiang Chengxuan and his companions could almost be certain that Blood River and Dry Bone would no longer come to their area. However, despite this, they knew they couldn't just stay put and do nothing. Through various channels, they had learned that other array eyes had been breached, which was a very serious matter. Although the breach of a few or even dozens of small array eyes would not have a substantial impact on the overall 9 Heaven Star River array in the short term, as more array eyes were broken, an avalanche effect could accumulate. When that time came, Even the intervention of soul formation heavenly lords might not be able to reverse the disadvantage. So, if possible, it was best to preserve the existing and important array eyes now and eliminate as many enemies as possible. However, before that, Jiang Qingxuan had another task to undertake. That was to use the supreme grade spiritual stone he had obtained this time to break through. Shen Ruyan, the two South Sea immortals, and perfected Lord Vast River had no objections. Time flew and half a year passed. On this day, Shen Ruyan, Dugu Beifei, Sidu Xiang, and perfected Lord Vast River were discussing something seriously. At that moment, they suddenly felt an extremely powerful aura emanating from the place where Jiang Qingxuan was temporarily in seclusion. An overwhelming presence that made Dugu Beifei, Sidu Xiang, and perfected Lord Vast River feel extremely oppressed appeared in their hearts. Could that be? Dugu Beifei, perfected Lord Vast River, and the others immediately turned around. They saw a somewhat blurred figure gradually becoming clear. Who else could it be but Jiang Qingxuan, who had gone into seclusion for a breakthrough in cultivation? Fellow Taoist Jiang. Their expressions immediately brightened upon seeing Jiang Qingxuan approaching them. Jiang Qingxuan slowly walked up to them. He first nodded with a smile at Shen Ruyan, then turned to Dugu Beifei and the others, saying, "My friends, thank you for protecting me during this time. Fortunately, I have not disappointed you. This seclusion has indeed led to a new breakthrough." Really? Joy appeared on the faces of Dugu Beifei and the others. They were genuinely happy for Jiang Qingxuan. After all, they were well aware that in the current situation, any increase in their side's strength was a good thing. Especially for someone like Jiang Qingxuan, whose strength was already well acknowledged by everyone. Now, with his declaration of a new breakthrough, it implied that their side's overall strength had climbed another step. Indeed, the 6 months of seclusion, though not very long, had brought significant progress to Jiang Qingxuan's cultivation and strength. He had not only elevated his cultivation from the 5th to the 6th level of nascent soul, but more importantly, his body-tempering cultivation had also advanced to the late stage of the 5th level, which was equivalent to the late-stage nascent soul. One could imagine that the current him, if facing his former self, could easily achieve a swift victory. By the way, at that moment, Jiang Qingxuan seemed to remember something and turned to Shen Ruyan and the others. "Wife, fellow Taoist Dugu, I noticed you were discussing something earlier. Has anything significant happened during this time?" Hearing Jiang Qingxuan's question, the expressions of those who had been joyous over his breakthrough once again turned solemn. Shen Ruyan responded, "Husband, we just received a message from Fail. Taoist flowing snow. The Big Dipper purple myrtle array they are guarding is now in great danger. If possible, they hope that we or others can go to support them." Huh? Jiang Qingxuan's eyes narrowed at Shen Ruyan's words. He knew very well that the Big Dipper purple myrtle array that perfected Lord Flowing Snow and the others were guarding was a very important array eye of the 9 Heavens Starfall array, just like the Jade Light Flying Immortal array that they were guarding. Any mishap there would have a significant impact. However, according to what Jiang Qingxuan knew, other than perfected Lord Flowing Snow and perfected Lord Star Sea, there were 3 other grand cultivators in charge of guarding the Big Dipper array. If they had been as cautious as his group, there shouldn't have been any problems. The crisis at their end indicated something unusual must have occurred. With this in mind, Jiang Qingxuan expressed his doubts. Shen Ruyan and the others nodded. "Husband, you must remember the 2 nascent soul demonic cultivators who left from our place earlier, right?" "Yes, you mean." "That's right, it's them," Shen Ruyan affirmed with a nod. "According to the information we have, the reason those 2 demonic cultivators left our area was to seek treasures that could break our array. However, after learning about the fall of Tian Luo and his group, they did not return here but went elsewhere. And that place happens to be the Big Dipper purple myrtle array that fellow Taoist Flying Snow, and the others are in charge of guarding." "So, you mean the crisis Flowing Snow and the others are facing is because those 2 nascent soul demonic cultivators brought treasures that could threaten their array?" Jiang Qingxuan understood the situation. This made him frown. Truth be told, going to rescue perfected Lord Flowing Snow and his group carried significant risks. If things went wrong, not only those who went to help would be in danger, but their own array might also face unexpected events. Most importantly, Who could guarantee that the demonic cultivators hadn't set a trap? It's possible that the demonic cultivators were waiting for them, or others, to fall into it. Yet, ignoring this situation wasn't an option either. Setting aside the fact that perfected Lord Flowing Snow was their friend, from a broader perspective, they couldn't allow the array, which perfected Lord Flowing Snow and others were guarding, to fall. With this in mind, Jiang Chengxuan took out a set of arrays and handed it to Shen Ruyan. Wife, this set is called the 8 Gates Locking Heaven Array. If something happens here, activate this array. Coupled with the current Jade Light Flying Immortal array, it can even block a level 6 attack. Taking the 8 Gates Locking Heaven array from Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan immediately understood his intentions, which tightened her heart. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and nodded. You, along with fellow Taoist Dugu, fellow Taoist Sidhu, and fellow Taoist Heiachuan, should stay and guard this place. Don't worry, you know my capabilities. Even though there is some risk, my life is not in danger. You can rest assured. Shen Ruyan wanted to stop him, but she swallowed her words. No one knew her husband better than she did. She knew very well that, since Jiang Chengxuan had already decided on this, very few people could change his mind. Moreover, rescuing perfected Lord Flowing Snow and others was indeed a necessary action. While there might be others who would go to support perfected Lord Flowing Snow, they had their own role to play. Most importantly, as Jiang Chengxuan himself said, with his current abilities, even if faced with a soul formation heavenly lord, he had the capability to escape. This was the main reason Shen Ruyan did not truly try to stop him. After a while, Jiang Chengxuan left the Jade Light Flying Immortal array. At the same time, outside the Big Dipper array, where perfected Lord Flowing Snow and the others were, a massive army of demonic cultivators, dense like locusts, had completely surrounded the array. The leaders were Blood River and the Dry Bone, who had left Jiang Chengxuan's area earlier, along with 3 other nascent soul late-stage demonic cultivators. They had the slaying wheel, borrowed from Demon Illusionist. So, at that moment, perfected Lord Flowing Snow and the others were in an extremely dangerous situation. Has there been no news yet? In the Big Dipper array, as a late-stage nascent soul cultivator, Mo Tiancheng looked at the densely packed demonic cultivators outside the array and could not help but say with an extremely solemn tone. He was the supreme elder of the World Edge Pavilion and a 5th-level array master. Without him, their array eye would have probably collapsed when Blood River and Dry Bone took out the slaying wheel. Even so, the situation was still dire, and even he felt somewhat powerless against the enemy. The slaying wheel was too effective against their kind of array, and the other party had 5 grand cultivator-level combatants, putting them in a very passive position. At the current rate, they could hold on for at most another 3 months. 3 months later, the Big Dipper array they were in charge of defending might not be able to withstand it. Currently, there is still no news, replied Flowing Snow, shaking her head. Mo Tiancheng's expression darkened. It's been so long and still no news. I'm afraid the news will never come. Huh? Upon hearing Mo Tiancheng's words, the expressions of perfected Lord Flowing Snow, perfected Lord Starsea, and the other 2 cultivators froze. At that moment, an elder in a black Taoist robe spoke. He was the ancestor of the Zhou family, named Zhou Wentai, with a cultivation of the 8th level of nascent soul. Hearing Mo Tiancheng's response, he said, "Fellow Taoist Mo, are you suggesting that?" Mo Tiancheng immediately nodded with an ugly expression. Indeed, if my guess is correct, our external communication paths have probably been blocked. Communication paths sealed. Hearing Mo Tiancheng's words, Zhou Wentai and others, including Flowing Snow, changed their expressions dramatically. It was clear to them what the sealing of the communication paths signified. Boom! Just then, a tremendous explosion sounded from the array they were in. Everyone abruptly turned to see what was happening. They saw a deep purple-black light fiercely striking their array. The array's light flickered intensely. One could clearly see that at the edge of the array, traces of purple-black light had already invaded the array. This caused the power of their array to continuously decrease. How much longer until we break through this array? Outside the array, a sinister-looking man with huge fleshy wings on his back turned to Blood River and Dry Bone to ask. Hearing him, the 2 other individuals, a silver-haired elder and a man with a single demon horn on his forehead, also turned their attention to Blood River and Dry Bone. The 2 demons could not help but chuckle. Soon, said Blood River. Based on the current situation, in at most 3 months, this array will surely be broken. By then, the power of the entire 9 Heaven Starfall array will inevitably diminish. Maybe our lords can take this opportunity to break through the entire array. At this, including Dry Bone, a cold smile appeared on everyone's faces. In that case, we will surely receive great rewards from our lords, the Horned Man sneered. Of course, if we can also take the opportunity to eliminate some human cultivators, that would be even better, added another. At this point, the 5 of them could not help but look at each other and smile meaningfully. In the blink of an eye, 2 months passed. At this moment, under the relentless attacks of Blood River and his company, the array's light had become increasingly weak. It was apparent that if the situation continued like this, the array might completely collapse within a month. Whoosh! Just then, a swiftly moving light flew towards them from a distance. The strong and fierce aura of the figure in the light caused Blood River and his group to slightly change their expressions. But soon, a cold smile flashed in the depths of their eyes. Whoosh! As the figure in the light approached, 5 towering purple-black light pillars suddenly rose from the ground, trapping the figure within them. Hadilhasa. The 5 demons laughed sinisterly. Looks like we're in luck this time. We trapped a peak nascent soul grand cultivator in one go. Inside the 5 towering purple-black light pillars, a graceful figure was desperately trying to break free, constantly colliding against the confines of the light pillars. Sword chi crisscrossed, causing the 5 towering purple-black light pillars to shake continuously. Cracks slowly appeared on their surfaces. However, at this moment, a demonic dragon and tiger, both enveloped in boundless demonic chi, suddenly appeared beside the light pillars. As they merged themselves into the purple-black light, the previously shaking and cracking pillars instantly regained their stability. At the same time, inside the purple-black light pillars, the figures of the dragon and tiger became apparent. Their roars and formidable aura were on par with the formidable pressure emitted by the trapped cultivator. They were both creatures that had reached the pinnacle of level 5. Not good. It's the first elder of the everlasting palace, Xianxia. Upon witnessing this sudden development, perfected Lord Flowing Snow, Mo Tiancheng, and others inside the array looked extremely troubled. They hadn't anticipated that Blood River and his group had such a hidden ace up their sleeve. This trap was clearly premeditated, likely designed to target powerful cultivators like Xianxia who came to their aid. Damn it! Mo Tiancheng punched a nearby table, shattering it instantly. Nobody understood the gravity of the situation better than them. Even Xianxia herself hadn't expected such a cunning plot from her adversaries. Although she was strong enough to hold out for a while against the current predicament, the situation would become dire once Blood River and his allies breached the array. Not only would those inside the array be in danger, but even she could face the risk of falling. In fact, Xianxia had already sensed something amiss. She realized that, trapped within this barrier-like array, she was unable to draw even the slightest bit of spiritual chi from the world around her. Moreover, Xianxia felt an indistinct suppression in this space, which seemed to weaken her strength the longer she stayed. Realizing this, she took a deep breath, knowing she couldn't afford to drag this out. In the next moment, her Star Moon sword burst into a brilliant, piercing light. A sword chi, sharp to the extreme, erupted from the blade. Swoosh! With a light sound, the sword transformed into a radiant, moonlight-like sword light, slashing fiercely at the demonic dragon and tiger. Pub! Demon blood sprayed. This all-out strike from Xianxia left a hundreds of meters-long gash on the bodies of the dragon and tiger. Their bones and organs were severely damaged. Had their bodies not been incredibly strong, they would have been cleaved in half by this single blow. This sight caused Blood River and others to slightly narrow their eyes, surprised at the ferocity and sharpness of Xianxia's attack. Despite the lack of intelligence of the dragon and tiger, their strength was even superior to everyone present. Yet they were nearly bisected by Xianxia's attack. The demonic cultivators exchanged glances, feeling fortunate they had prepared this trap. Thank goodness! Now that Xianxia was trapped within the purple-black light pillars, no matter how powerful her real strength was, she would no longer be able to cause any trouble. In the next moment, a surge of purple-black light flooded out within the array, enveloping and rapidly healing the dragon and tiger. It could be seen with the naked eye that the 2 creatures whose bodies had almost been damaged by Xianxia's sword just now actually began to rapidly recover. In a moment, the dragon and tiger were as good as new. How is that possible? Seeing this scene, Su Qingshan's beautiful eyes immediately constricted. The expressions of perfected Lord Flowing Snow and the others in the Big Dipper array changed instantly. Roar! After recovering, the dragon and tiger were enraged. The two of them quickly rushed towards Su Qingshan. The terrifying power instantly compressed the sword light in front of Su Qingshan. In the blink of an eye, the originally cold and sharp sword light was only left with a thin layer. From the looks of it, it was in danger of being broken at any time. Then, unnoticed by all, a silent sword tip suddenly appeared behind Blood River. Pub! The sword tip instantly pierced Blood River's heart. This made Blood River, who was paying all his attention to Su Qingshan, tremble slightly as his eyes widened. What happened? Before he could fully grasp the situation, a collapsing bang echoed within his body, signaling the irreversible destruction of his flesh, bones, organs, and nascent soul. Even his attempt to escape by burning his blood chi was futile. How come? Blood River was filled with terror. He wanted to warn everyone. However, for some reason, all his aura and voice were firmly locked in his body, preventing him from making any movements and sounds. Whoosh! It was only when his body completely disintegrated that the man with a pair of fleshy wings on his back and the others sensed the commotion on Blood River's side. However, they were immediately faced with an extremely sharp sword light that blinded them momentarily, causing their thoughts to freeze for an instant. In that brief moment, the silver-haired elder was split in half. As blood splattered, the silver-haired old man's nascent soul immediately fled in panic. Before he could react, in the void, a burning purple heavenly fire immediately surged towards all of them like a tsunami. Not good, this is the purple sun heavenly fire. Dry Bone immediately cried out in fear. Clearly, they all knew what power the so-called purple sun heavenly fire held. It was the unique talisman of Heavenly Lord Purple Flame. Realizing that Heavenly Lord Purple Flame might have arrived, the remaining 4 demonic cultivators no longer cared for anything else and tried to escape quickly. Boom! Just then, a massive golden furnace, as large as a mountain, suddenly descended from above, pressing down towards them with overwhelming force. There was a clang. The lid of the furnace opened, and a torrent of pure golden sun true fire like an ocean wave furiously rushed towards them. Pub! In an instant, the silver-haired elder, who had only his nascent soul remaining, was incinerated into ashes by purple sun heavenly fire and the sun true fire. The remaining 3, including Dry Bone, were chilled to the bone. The combination of purple sun heavenly fire and sun true fire was a fatal threat to them. However, in the next moment, to their utter astonishment, the purple sun heavenly fire and sun true fire didn't chase after them, but instead turned in a different direction, surging towards the 5 purple-black light pillars that trapped Su Qingshan. Damn it, we've been tricked. It was only then that the 3 demonic cultivators reacted. The person who had appeared was not Heavenly Lord Purple Flame, but merely a nascent soul cultivator with a purple sun heavenly fire talisman. His real target was not them, but the purple-black light pillars trapping Su Qingshan. Boom! The purple sun heavenly fire and sun true fire simultaneously struck the purple-black light pillars, causing thick white smoke to rise and emitting a corroding hissing sound. The array's light began to flicker unstably, looking as if it might be breached at any moment. You're courting death. Angered and feeling deceived, the 3 demonic cultivators immediately stopped fleeing. Instead, they took out the demonic treasures they relied on to become famous and attacked Jiang Chengxuan, who had already appeared. Its fellow Taoist Jiang. In the Big Dipper array, perfected Lord Flowing Snow and perfected Lord Star Sea recognized the person immediately. At the side, Mo Tiancheng and the other 2 also showed a hint of joy on their faces. Clearly, they were all well aware of the capabilities of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, especially after perfected Lord Flowing Snow's introduction. Knowing Jiang Chengxuan's strength, they realized that the opportunity to counterattack had arrived. Missing this chance would mean possibly never having such an opportunity again. Thus, the 3 nascent soul grand cultivators, without any hesitation, commanded everyone to join them in leaving the array to confront the enemy. Boom! Mo Tiancheng suddenly summoned a hexagonal array disc, which emitted a powerful sealing force. In an instant, it blocked the combined attack of the three demonic cultivators for Jiang Chengxuan. Fellow Taoist Jiang will block the enemy behind you for you. You don't have to be distracted. Just focus on saving Fairy Su. Mo Tiancheng's voice suddenly sounded in Jiang Chengxuan's ears. Hearing this, Jiang Chengxuan nodded slightly in acknowledgement, grateful that they were not just standing by but were actively participating in the battle. In the next moment, another flame appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's hand. The flame alternated between milky white and pure gold colors. He rubbed it hard and instantly turned it into a platinum fireball that flew towards the 5 purple-black pillars of light. Kai 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 kai. Wherever the platinum fireball passed, a circle of ripples appeared in the void. A trail of white ashes appeared in everyone's sight. Not good, stop him, the man with fleshy wings on his back shouted in panic. However, his cries were answered with an attack from Mo Tiancheng and others. Bang 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 bang. Boom boom boom. In an instant, both sides clashed countless times, sending out powerful shockwaves that created a massive cavity in the sea below. At the same time, the platinum fireball that Jiang Chengxuan shot out finally landed on the 5 purple-black pillars of light. Combined with the previously unleashed purple sun, heavenly fire, and sun true fire, it was as if a miniature sun had risen, spilling infinite light and heat into the pillars. Rumble! The pillars began to shake violently, and large cracks appeared on their surfaces. The surging demonic chi was instantly evaporated by the overwhelming light and heat. The demonic dragon and tiger, sensing the danger, changed direction and lunged towards Jiang Chengxuan outside the array. Heh, I was waiting for this. A cold smile appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face. In the next moment, a radiant display of blue, red, yellow, white, and blue light appeared behind him. With a swoosh, it instantly swept past the demonic dragon and demonic tiger. At the same time, his demonic slaying talent was fully activated. His body instantly grew to 80 feet tall, a transformation resulting from his advancement to the late stage of the 5th level in body tempering technique. As his blood chi surged, the phantom of an emperor suddenly appeared behind him. Clang! As a huge fist shadow fused into the deep earth halberd in his hand. The deep earth halberd instantly emitted an incomparable demon suppression power. Boom! The halberd struck the charging demonic dragon and tiger. Puff! The dragon's head burst like a smashed watermelon, turning into a mist of blood, while the tiger's body snapped in half. Ow! Roar! The screams of the 2 demonic creatures sounded in the air. At the same time, a fiercely sharp sword light swept over the nascent souls of the dragon and tiger. Hiss! In the blink of an eye, the nascent souls of the dragon and tiger were shattered into spiritual chi that filled the sky, causing a tsunami. Bang! Seeing this, Su Qingchen, trapped within the purple-black light pillars, didn't stay idle. The star-moon sword in her hand emitted a cold light again. There was a rumble as the force of the sword chi slashed fiercely at the purple-black light pillars. Amidst the external and internal attacks, the 5 purple-black light pillars finally couldn't withstand the pressure anymore. There was a rumble. The light pillars exploded into a myriad of dissipating light particles. Oh no! Seeing this, the 3 demonic cultivators, including Dry Bone, who were engaged in battle with Mo Tiancheng and others, had their expressions drastically changed. At this moment, they could no longer care about anything else. After temporarily forcing back the attacks of Mo Tiancheng and the others, the 3 of them turned into 3 streaks of light and began to escape in different directions. Jiang Chengxuan and Su Qingchen exchanged a glance, both tacitly understanding each other's thought. They each targeted one of the fleeing demonic cultivators and pursued them. Rumble! A huge rock phantom immediately flashed behind Jiang Chengxuan, significantly boosting his speed to an extent that no one could react in time. A loud boom echoed through the sky, as the man with fleshy wings was brutally smashed into a mist of blood by Jiang Chengxuan's body. Jiang Chengxuan then sharply turned in midair and swiftly pursued the fleeing Dry Bone. Dry Bone, who was fleeing crazily, felt the aura behind him and was immediately frightened out of his wits. He had never encountered such a ferocious adversary, whose physical body was even more monstrous than demonic beasts. Buzz! Without hesitation, Dry Bone summoned a skull lotus platform, emitting a deep and thick demonic aura, attempting to block Jiang Chengxuan's attack. However, he was unaware that Jiang Chengxuan's strength had far surpassed that of an ordinary grand cultivator. There was a clang. Jiang Chengxuan pulled out a green saber in midair and slashed forward effortlessly. There was a ripping sound. The green sword instantly cut through the Lotus platform's defense, flinging its owner hundreds of miles away. Then Jiang Chengxuan suddenly increased his speed again before Dry Bone could react. There was a whoosh. The enormous deep earth halberd, like a mountain, heavily smashed onto his body. Arg! Accompanied by a scream, Dry Bone's body was crushed into a pulp, exploding along with his nascent soul into the surrounding environment. By the time Jiang Chengxuan approached perfected Lord Flowing Snow, Mo Tiancheng, and others, Su Qingchen, who had gone after the Horned Man, also returned from afar. In her hand, she held the decapitated head of the demonic cultivator with the devilish horn. With the fall of the 5 nascent soul demonic cultivators, the remaining demonic forces stood no chance against Jiang Chengxuan and his allies. The demonic army quickly collapsed and was soon entirely annihilated. As Jiang Chengxuan and Su Qingchen joined perfected Lord Flowing Snow, Mo Tiancheng, and others inside the array, everyone greeted them with gratitude. It's all thanks to fellow Taoist Jiang and Fairy Su this time. If not for you, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to defend the array we're in. Hearing this, Su Qingchen modestly waved her hand. You flatter me. The real thanks should go to fellow Taoist Jiang. Without him, not just you, but I too would have likely met a grim fate. Turning to Jiang Chengxuan, Su Qingchen's expression was one of sincere gratitude. Fellow Taoist Jiang, thank you for your assistance in this matter. Jiang Chengxuan smiled and waved his hand. No need for thanks. In times of demonic calamity, it's our duty to assist each other. Then, seeming to remember something, he turned to Su Qingchen and asked, by the way, how is the overall situation of our human cultivators? Do you have any information? Perfected Lord Flowing Snow, Mo Tiancheng, perfected Lord Star Sea, and the others also looked on with concern. They had been focused on their respective battlefronts, lacking the means to learn about the broader war situation. However, Su Qingchen was clearly not one of them. As the first elder of the Everlasting Palace, and the personal disciple of Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain, even though the area she was in was also the front line of this battle. However, she had access to more detailed and extensive information. A solemn expression appeared on Su Qingchen's face. She nodded at Jiang Chengxuan and everyone present. I do have some understanding of the current situation, and frankly, it's not good. My Shifu and 3 other Soul Formation seniors are engaged in a great battle with 6 demon lords including Mad Dragon, Sinister Moon, and Blood Sea in the 9 Heavens Gangfeng realm. The details of the battle are beyond my knowledge, but I know that within the 9 Heavens Starfall array, dozens of small and medium-sized array eyes, including the large vermilion bird fire array, have been breached. More than 10 nascent soul cultivators have fallen. What? Mo Tiancheng, Zhou Wentai, and perfected Lord Flowing Snow looked visibly shaken. Even Jiang Chengxuan's expression turned extremely grave. He understood that if the war continued in this manner, the human race would have a hard time lasting until the end of the demonic calamity. Even if they did, they would be greatly weakened, potentially allowing the demonic cultivators to break through their defenses and invade the inland areas of the northern border, leading to widespread disaster. At that time, people would really be plunged into misery and suffering. Then may I ask Fairy Su, do you have any good ways to deal with this? At this moment, Mo Tiancheng couldn't help but speak. Hearing his words, the others also looked at Su Qingchen. However, Su Qingchen shook her head with a somewhat apologetic expression. As of now, our side doesn't have any effective countermeasures. We can only continue as before. If we learn of any critical array eyes in danger, myself and others will provide support to fight off the enemy. Jiang Chengxuan knew that Su Qingchen really meant it. Throughout past demonic calamities, the human race had mostly resorted to this tactic, enduring until the rifts in heaven and earth were about to close. At that time, those demonic cultivators would naturally retreat. Otherwise, if they still stayed, the consequences would definitely not be what they wanted to see. It was the same for those soul formation demonic cultivators. However, if they waited until then, the human race, and even the entire 9 essences immortal world would probably be destroyed beyond recognition. The losses were not something they could bear. At least in Jiang Chengxuan's opinion, that would mean a defeat for the human race. Furthermore, without significant changes, future outcomes would likely remain the same, resulting in perpetual defeats. Until the will of the world in the nine essences, immortal world completely sank and was even wiped out. The result would still remain the same. So, to alter the course of the war and achieve victory in this demonic calamity, someone among them needed to be capable of reversing the situation. This person would need to possess overwhelming strength to crush all nascent soul demonic cultivators, rendering them incapable of threatening the nine heavens starfall array. In such a scenario, the four heavenly lords of the northern border might be able to combine the power of the great array with their own to pose a real lethal threat to the six demon lords. If managed well, this strategy might even lead to capturing a few of them. Considering the current state of the northern border's cultivation world, perhaps only he and Shen Ruyan, possessing a zenith nascent soul and a flawless nascent soul respectively, had such capabilities, especially if both of their cultivations reached the later stages of nascent soul. Then this war, at least at the nascent soul level, would basically not have any problem. Jiang Chengxuan was aware that revealing his true strength prematurely might attract attention and unforeseeable dangers, potentially adding tribulations to his path of cultivation. However, without taking this step, the current demonic calamity would likely end no differently from past ones, with the human race facing defeat. This would inevitably lead to a further decline in the amount of qi in the world, and weaken the will of heaven and earth. At that time, unless Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't want to break through to soul formation, any attempt at breaking through to that level would likely be detected by an existence in the outer world. So, thus, even if not for the sake of the human race or the amount of qi, but for their own sakes, they had to give their all in this battle. Otherwise, their cultivation would remain perpetually at nascent soul. However, that was obviously unacceptable. Therefore, Jiang Chengxuan turned to Su Qingchen and said, "Fairy Su, I believe we can find a better way." Huh? Not only Su Qingchen, but Mo Tiancheng and the others all looked at him in surprise. Jiang Chengxuan didn't keep them in suspense, but shared his thoughts with them. After hearing his idea, Su Qingchen and the others were initially shocked, then thoughtful. After a long period of contemplation, Su Qingchen looked at Jiang Chengxuan with unprecedented seriousness. "Taoist Jiang, how confident are you about this plan? And you must understand this is extremely risky. If we fail, not only might we perish, but the war could also be plunged into an entirely unpredictable abyss." Mo Tiancheng, Zhou Wentai, and perfected Lord Flowing Snow also looked extremely solemn. Clearly, they knew very well that what Su Qingchen said was not an alarmist. It was something that was extremely likely to happen. Jiang Chengxuan was fully aware of the stakes involved. After careful consideration, he held up 5 fingers and said, "There's about a 50% chance of success for this plan, including all potential unexpected situations. This even accounts for the possibility of soul formation demonic cultivators personally intervening." 50%. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's estimate, Su Qingchen and the others fell into deep thought. A 50% success rate was quite significant, especially considering it included variables like the intervention of soul formation demonic cultivators. Without these variables, Su Qingchen believed the chances might be even higher, reaching 60 or even 70%. It had to be said that this was indeed a very tempting plan. Especially if they succeeded, the benefits they would receive would be huge. It was so big that even a soul formation heavenly lord could not ignore it. However, high rewards often come with high risks. Personally, Su Qingchen was willing to take the risk, but such a significant decision couldn't be made by her alone. She needed to consult with other peak nascent soul cultivators and report to her Shifu, Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain, to gauge their stance on the matter. If they agreed and were willing to let them take this gamble, there would naturally be no problem. On the contrary, they had to reconsider and discuss other countermeasures. Su Qingchen did not hide anything and told Jiang Chengxuan her thoughts. She also inquired about the time he and Shen Ruyan would need to advance to the later stage of nascent soul. After all, the most important part of this plan was that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan had to break through to the late-stage nascent soul. Jiang Chengxuan clearly knew this very well. He couldn't help but think for a moment and say, "Within 30 years, both my wife and I should be able to advance to the late stage of nascent soul." 30 years, Su Qingchen nodded slightly. 30 years wasn't a long time. Compared to the 100-year demonic calamity that they might have to experience, this time was less than half. Moreover, the next few decades were expected to be a relatively stagnant phase in the war with the demonic cultivators, a so-called quiet period. This quiet period didn't mean an absence of conflict. Battles would continue, but they wouldn't be as intense as the initial or final stages of the calamity. So, given this time frame, Xianxia and the others could afford to wait. They tentatively agreed on the plan and made everyone present swear not to disclose it. After finalizing their agreement, Jiang Chengxuan and Xianxia took their leave. On their way back, Jiang Chengxuan and Xianxia engaged in a deep discussion about the demonic calamity, exchanging insights and strategies. It was not until Jiang Chengxuan approached the spiritual island of the vast river that he bid farewell to Xianxia. When Jiang Chengxuan returned to the spiritual island of the vast river, Shen Ruyan and Dugu Beifei immediately asked Jiang Chengxuan about the situation outside. Jiang Chengxuan, without any concealment, detailed the events and discussions that had transpired during his journey. Everyone was surprised to learn about the perilous situation that even Xianxia, a nascent soul grand cultivator, had nearly faced. Of course, what shocked them the most was the plan Jiang Chengxuan and Xianxia had tentatively agreed upon. The sheer audacity of it was almost inconceivable. They really did not dare to imagine what kind of tragic scene it would be if this plan really began to be carried out. Yet they couldn't deny that it seemed to be the best countermeasure and strategy available to the human race at the moment. The potential benefits of success were immense for anyone who survived. "Wife, I apologize for not consulting with you before agreeing to this on your behalf," Jiang Chengxuan said to Shen Ruyan in their temporary cave abode, a hint of apology in his voice. However, Shen Ruyan just smiled and shook her head. "Husband, there's no need for apologies. Your decision is mine as well. I always stand by your choices." Touched by her words, Jiang Chengxuan felt a deep sense of gratitude. The couple wasted no time and began their secluded cultivation after entrusting the defense duties to Dugu Beifei and the others. Meanwhile, as Jiang Chengxuan started his cultivation, he received a system notification in his mind. System mission issued. Host, please complete the achievement of killing 100 nascent soul demonic cultivators. This system task piqued Jiang Chengxuan's interest. Slaying 100 nascent soul demonic cultivators. This is indeed intriguing, he thought, narrowing his eyes contemplatively. At the same time, Xianxia, upon returning to her front line, immediately reported the plan discussed with Jiang Chengxuan to her Shifu, Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain, for further consideration and approval. Xianxia was surprised when she received a response from her Shifu, Everlasting Mountain, soon after reporting Jiang Chengxuan's plan. The reply was concise, simply stating "sure." Encouraged by this affirmation, she immediately gathered Sword Lord Azure Blue and perfected Lord Wind Cloud, who were co-responsible for the defense with her, and briefed them on the plan. Not long after, the three peak perfected lords immediately began to make arrangements. 28 years swiftly passed. During this time, countless battles, both large and small, took place between the demonic cultivators and the human cultivators of the northern border. The number of cultivators and demonic cultivators who fell in these battles was astoundingly high. Even considering only the nascent soul cultivators, more than 30 had perished, and the number would be much higher if all casualties were accounted for. From this, it could be seen that the number of cultivators and demonic cultivators who died below the nascent soul realm was definitely even greater. At this moment, in Jiang Chengxuan's secluded cultivation cave abode, his aura had become terrifyingly powerful. Elemental spiritual qi furiously converged towards him, filling the space with a strange energy. Not to mention outsiders, as long as they approached a radius of 1,000 feet, they would probably be severely injured by the energy emitted here. And this was the circumstances of nascent soul cultivator. If it was a cultivator below nascent soul, they would probably be crushed into powder by the rampant energy. Crack. Finally, after half a year, a sound like chains breaking echoed within Jiang Chengxuan's cave abode. It was also at this moment that the power in his body immediately erupted like a volcano. On the original foundation, it suddenly increased by several times. With a light clench of his hand, the entire cave abode shook violently, involuntarily. At this moment, he could clearly feel that his strength was not as simple as taking a step forward. It was a complete and earth-shattering change. If previously he could easily overpower grand cultivators, now he could do the same to peak nascent soul cultivators. It was not an exaggeration to say that as long as a soul formation cultivator did not appear, he would be the undisputed #1 nascent soul cultivator. This was the true combat strength that Jiang Chengxuan had after truly breaking through to the late-stage nascent soul. He even suspected that even a soul formation heavenly lord could not kill him in one move. Once his cultivation was stabilized, Jiang Chengxuan emerged from his cave abode and discovered that Shen Ruyan had already completed her seclusion before him. Sensing the powerful aura coming from the other party, a smile immediately appeared on Jiang Chengxuan's face. "Congratulations, wife. You have successfully advanced to the late-stage nascent soul and become a grand cultivator." Shen Ruyan rolled her eyes at him. Soon, they exchanged insights on their cultivation progress. It had to be said that the two of them had gained a lot from this seclusion. Not only had their cultivation reached a new height, but even the divine powers they cultivated had increased greatly, especially for the future plans. At this moment, the couple was full of confidence. As they stepped outside, Dugu Beifei, Sidu Xiang, perfected Lord Vast River, and others congratulated them. After exchanging pleasantries, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan asked about the situation over the years. In fact, some things over the years were not out of their expectations. After understanding everything, Jiang Chengxuan finally asked if Su Qingchen had contacted them recently. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's question, Dugu Beifei and the others immediately nodded. Perfected Lord Vast River said, "Not long ago, Fairy Su did send us a message to ask about your situation. She said that if you come out of seclusion, please contact her immediately." Jiang Chengxuan nodded. Soon, he took out a special Jade talisman that Su Qingchen had given him. As Jiang Chengxuan sent the message to Su Qingchen informing her of his and Shen Ruyan's emergence from seclusion, a prompt response was received. After reading Su Qingchen's reply, both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan exchanged a glance. The two of them did not hide it from perfected Lord Vast River and the others. Jiang Chengxuan said, "In a month, Fairy Su, fellow Taoist Wind Cloud, fellow Taoist Azure Blue, and some other fellow Taoists will arrive at the spiritual island of the vast river one after another. At that time, we shall begin executing the plan we formulated almost 30 years ago." This announcement surprised Dugu Beifei, Sidu Xiang, and the others present. They hadn't expected peak cultivators like Su Qingchen to all convene at their location. For no reason, they felt an indescribable pressure. As they waited, the days passed by. Whoosh! Finally, after about 10 days, Su Qingchen was the first to arrive at the island. In the following days, perfected Lord Wind Cloud, Sword Lord Azure Blue, and even Mo Tiancheng and the others in the Big Dipper array arrived at the spiritual island of the vast river one after another. By the end of the month, the island had gathered nearly dozens of perfected lords, with nearly half of them being late-stage nascent soul cultivators. At this moment, everyone's attention turned to Jiang Chengxuan. Su Qingchen asked, "Fellow Taoist Jiang, according to the plan we made 30 years ago, should we wait here for the demonic cultivators to come to us?" Jiang Chengxuan, however, shook his head. "The general outline of our plan from 30 years ago remains the same, but the specific operations and details need to be adjusted and changed for the current situation." This remark made everyone, including Su Qingchen, slightly surprised. Jiang Chengxuan then took out a map, pointing out several locations and explained, "Fairy Su, fellow Taoist Wind Cloud, fellow Taoist Azure Blue. Look carefully. Currently, our entire battlefield situation is still in a state of complete defensive passivity, especially in the southwest and northeast areas, where the situation is particularly dire. If we continue to wait for the enemy as planned 30 years ago, we won't hold the initiative in this battle. So, fellow Taoist Jiang, are you suggesting that we join forces to rescue our allies in the southwest and northeast areas?" Wind Cloud speculated. Jiang Chengxuan again shook his head. "Not exactly. If we go to those areas now, although it's slightly better than waiting for the enemy here, we might still end up being led by the nose. For this battle, we need our own rhythm. Only then can we hope to turn the table." With that, he slammed his fist onto a particular area on the map. "Our next target is here." They looked in the direction where Jiang Chengxuan's hand landed. Su Qingchen, perfected Lord Wind Cloud, soared Lord Azure Blue, and the others present could not help but narrow their eyes. It was because the spot indicated on the map was a significant stronghold of the demonic cultivators, a foundational base for their operations in the Nine Essences cultivation world. An attack on such a crucial site would deliver a massive blow to the demonic forces in the northern border. Similarly, the stronghold, due to its importance, was undoubtedly heavily guarded, likely by at least 20 or more nascent soul cultivators. Fellow Taoist Jiang, are we really going to this place next? Affected Lord Vast River could not help but ask. Jiang Chengxuan, however, remained resolute. That's right. Only by clearing the stronghold of the demonic cultivators can we obtain enough leverage in this battle. You must already be aware that a significant part of the power of our 9 Heaven Starfall array is actually being used to counteract the energy emanating from that particular stronghold of the enemy, right? Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Su Qingchen and the others couldn't help but look at each other and nod in unison. Clearly, at this moment, they all knew that one of the main reasons why there was so much demonic chi in the Nova waters, and even caused the mutation of countless creatures in the sea, was because of a certain array in that stronghold. Only by destroying that array could the 9 Heaven Starfall array release this portion of power to support the 4 heavenly lords. Otherwise, not only would the power of the array not be able to augment the 4 heavenly lords, but it would also have to split a large amount of power to protect cultivators below the Violet Palace. Otherwise, chi refinement and foundation establishment cultivators would be contaminated at any time. Then should we go over directly next, or? Mo Tiancheng asked. Jiang Chengxuan responded with a chuckle. With our current strength, we can just bulldoze our way through. There's no need to hide. In fact, even if we want to hide now, it's impossible. Indeed. With such significant movements on their side, how could the demonic cultivators be oblivious? Hiding a few individuals might be feasible, but concealing their entire group was impractical. Moreover, as Jiang Chengxuan stated, given their current strength, there was no need for concealment. They could simply forge ahead. However, Jiang Chengxuan's straightforward and aggressive strategy, when heard by those less familiar with him, could seem rather presumptuous. After all, this was a life-or-death war. Even peak nascent soul cultivators like Su Qingchen could face peril, yet Jiang Chengxuan spoke so casually. Involuntarily, the others turned their gaze to Su Qingchen and perfected Lord Wind Cloud, expecting them to disagree with Jiang Chengxuan's bold plan. To their surprise, upon hearing Jiang Chengxuan's plan, Su Qingchen and the others nodded in agreement. Without further explanation, the group, led by Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Su Qingchen, swiftly headed towards their target, the demonic heart array. Soon, under the lead of Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and Su Qingchen, the dozens of cultivators present quickly flew towards their target, which was the demonic heart array. Swoosh, swoosh. Jiang Chengxuan and his group were very fast. In the blink of an eye, they had already flown more than 10,000 kilometers. However, the demonic cultivators were naturally not blind and quickly sensed their traces. In almost an instant, more than 10 demonic cultivators began to gather. One of them, a late-stage nascent soul demonic cultivator called Xianxia, looked at Jiang Chengxuan and his group who were flying towards them with an extremely ferocious expression. These guys actually dare to leave the array they're guarding. This is our chance to strike while they're away from their array. Once we hold them off, we'll attack and obliterate everyone in their base, Xianxia commanded as the demonic cultivators prepared to intercept Jiang Chengxuan's group. This did not mean that they had the confidence to kill Jiang Chengxuan and the others. They only intended to stall for time. When more demonic cultivators gathered, what awaited Jiang Chengxuan would be certain death. Boom! At this moment, a barrage of darkly glowing demonic treasures was unleashed towards Jiang Chengxuan and his companions. Affected Lord Flowing Snow, Mo Tiancheng and the others were all prepared. Even Su Qingchen, perfected Lord Wind Cloud, and the others took out their true treasures. In the midst of this, Jiang Chengxuan surged forward, taking the lead to face the onslaught of demonic treasures with just a flickering 5-colored aureola around him. The next moment, he charged forward like a cannonball fired from its barrel, hurtling directly towards the attacks of the enemy. The other cultivators following behind were utterly stunned. None of them could have anticipated that Jiang Chengxuan would react this way, when facing the attacks of more than 10 nascent soul demonic cultivators. Even Xianxia, who knew him well, was momentarily taken aback. Boom! But in the next moment, a scene that further dumbfounded everyone unfolded. All the attacks from the nascent soul demonic cultivators were effortlessly blocked by the five-colored aureola that Xianxia had manifested above his head. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, boom, boom. After a barrage of attacks, not a single one could penetrate Xianxia's defense. The light from the aureola didn't even diminish. And there he was, without any hint of stopping, charging straight towards Xianxia and his faction. Go to hell. A middle-aged man with entirely blood-red eyes suddenly unleashed a blood-colored battle axe. With a fierce howl, he struck fiercely towards Xianxia's head. Clang! However, what answered him was a dull sound of metal colliding. Before the man could react, he was horrified to see Xianxia's figure rapidly enlarging in his pupils. There was a loud bang. Xianxia, flying at high speed, collided head-on with the nascent soul demonic cultivator. In the next moment, the nascent soul demonic cultivator's body seemed to have been hit by a high-speed train and flew out. While he was still in midair, the violent power within tore his body into pieces. Even the nascent soul was shattered into a bloody mist. At this moment, many people could not help but widen their eyes in disbelief. However, before they could completely recover from the scene just now, a series of terrified and desperate screams suddenly sounded in the sky in front of them. Arg! Rumble! Wherever Xianxia went, any nascent soul demonic cultivator in his path met the same fate as the first. Their bodies were smashed into blood mist by his high-velocity impact. In just a short while, 6 or 7 nascent soul demonic cultivators had perished under Xianxia's hands. Everyone found this unreal. Had they all just seen an illusion? Killing 6 to 7 nascent soul demonic cultivators with a single charge, who would believe such a tale? The most terrifying part was that Xianxia showed no signs of stopping. Like a meteor, he crashed down again, annihilating 2 more nascent soul demonic cultivators. At this point, Xianxia and the remaining nascent soul demonic cultivators finally had a full grasp of the situation. Fear was evident on their faces. Luckily, at that moment, more than a dozen nascent soul demonic cultivators arrived from all directions. 3 of them were late-stage nascent soul demonic cultivators like Xianxia. They all witnessed the previous scene. Without hesitation, the group collectively attacked. Instantly, more than a dozen demonic treasures hurtled towards Xianxia, who was charging towards them. Break! Yet Xianxia's figure and speed showed no intention of stopping. He raised his hand and waved. There was a buzz. Holding the deep earth halberd in his hand, he slammed it forward. There was a rumble. In the sky, a twisting vortex suddenly appeared, collapsing inward. With an even louder explosion, the demonic treasures attacking Xianxia were all sent flying back. Hiss! Everyone following, Xianxia couldn't help but gasp in shock. Was this even humanly possible? One person against more than 20 nascent soul demonic cultivators. Even Heavenly Lord Xianyang, before he broke through to soul formation, wouldn't be able to do this, right? Their minds were reeling with shock when they saw Xianxia, like a spearhead, piercing straight into the enemy's heart. In an instant, 4 or 5 more clouds of blood mist erupted in the sky. These were 4 or 5 more nascent soul demonic cultivators, including one in the late nascent soul stage. Brutal, incredibly brutal. In just a short while, more than a dozen nascent soul demonic cultivators had fallen to Xianxia's hands. Even a peak nascent soul cultivator would struggle against so many at once. But what about Xianxia? To Xianxia, the killing of over a dozen nascent soul demonic cultivators seemed no different from dispatching a few chickens or ducks. Unknown to the onlookers, though this number seemed large, it was far from sufficient for Xianxia. After all, the system had tasked him with the killing of 100 nascent soul demonic cultivators. A mere dozen was just a fraction of this goal. You're courting death. Suddenly, from within the demonic heart array, an angry roar erupted. Following this, several demonic cultivators with exceptionally formidable auras, accompanied by over a dozen nascent soul demonic cultivators, rushed out from the array. Judging by the aura of the leading few, they had reached the peak of nascent soul. One of them, a man with numerous mysterious demonic runes on his forehead, coldly looked at Jiang Chengxuan and said menacingly, "Do you know that you're seeking your own death?" "I don't," Jiang Chengxuan responded indifferently. At this moment, he was very close to Xianxia and the newly appeared demonic cultivators. Without the slightest hesitation, suddenly 5 colored lights, green, red, yellow, white, and blue, shone behind Jiang Chengxuan. Simultaneously, his demon-slaying talent was also fully activated. The power of the demon-suppressing fist technique was instantly added to his deep earth halberd. With a thunderous roar, a giant halberd light, measuring 800 feet in length and bearing the weight of a mountain, crashed down towards the demonic cultivator with the demonic runes and Xianxia. "How dare you!" The demonic cultivator with the demonic runes and his group were enraged. They unleashed even more powerful attacks than before, all aimed at Jiang Chengxuan. However, for some reason, everyone following Jiang Chengxuan felt that these attacks weren't as formidable as they appeared. Their feelings proved correct. As soon as their attacks collided with Jiang Chengxuan's descending giant halberd light, they quickly showed signs of weakening. Crack! A sound akin to shattering glass was heard. The demonic cultivator with the demonic runes and his allies' expressions changed. "No good, this person has specific methods to counter us." Boom! As soon as he spoke, a violent explosion erupted from their collision. PFF. In that instant, Jiang Chengxuan's golden void sword swiftly sliced through 3 nascent soul demonic cultivators, annihilating them on the spot. At this point, the other cultivators following Jiang Chengxuan also joined the fray. Various attacks like sword lights, thunderbolts, storms, and blade beams surged like a tsunami towards the demonic cultivator with the demonic runes and his allies. Boom, boom, boom. Bang, 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 bang. In just a moment, 4 or 5 more nascent soul demonic cultivators fell in this storm, cut down like wheat, their deaths insignificant. Swoosh, swoosh. A light flashed. Jiang Chengxuan's golden void sword once again swept across the necks of 2 nascent soul demonic cultivators. As he neared the demonic cultivator with the demonic runes, a fierce and sinister smile suddenly appeared on the demonic cultivator's face. "Finally, you're within my reach. Power of the tenfold pill." Buzz. As the man with demonic runes finished speaking, a purple-red talisman appeared in his hand, exuding an unparalleled and terrifying aura. It felt as if a dark abyss had descended, causing a brief daze in everyone who saw the talisman. Only a sudden thunderclap nearby snapped them out of their trance. However, when they regained their senses, a look of terror involuntarily appeared in their eyes. That's a level 6 talisman. Clearly, no one expected the man with demonic runes to possess such a formidable trump card. He laughed maniacally. "Ha ha ha, kid, think you're so tough. Let's see if your body is stronger or my level 6 Eclipse Godslayer talisman." Buzz. As he spoke, the level 6 Eclipse Godslayer talisman in his hand burst into a dense purple-red light. A purple-red spear appeared in the sky, emitting an aura capable of annihilating everything. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel his own aura being locked by the purple-red spear. No matter where he fled, the spear would follow. Fellow Taoist Shen. Instinctively, everyone's gaze turned to Shen Ruyan. However, she remained calm, showing no signs of panic. "Don't worry, my husband is not in danger." Hug. As her words fell, the purple-red spear lunged straight towards Jiang Chengxuan. Whoosh! Before the spear even arrived, space cracks started appearing in the void in front of Jiang Chengxuan, spreading a black aura that made everyone witnessing the scene scream in utter terror. It was a force beyond the capacity of any nascent soul cultivator. Even someone as powerful as Jiang Chengxuan couldn't possibly withstand such an attack. Buzz. Yet at that very moment, a talisman emitting endless starlight appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan. As soon as it appeared, countless miniature stars formed a complex and mysterious array around him, rotating continuously and giving off an eternal and indestructible aura. Everyone who saw this scene could not help but widen their eyes in shock. This was because they had already recognized that the talisman Jiang Chengxuan took out was actually a level 6 talisman. Boom! There was a loud bang. The purple-red spear struck the multitude of stars in front of Jiang Chengxuan, and it sounded like sizzling water hitting hot oil. Soon, the people present witnessed a shocking scene. The purple-red spear, which had unleashed a terrifying sharpness, unexpectedly began to shatter. It was as if there was a constantly spinning grinding wheel beneath it, slowly and methodically grinding the spear to dust, bit by bit. How is this possible? The man with demonic runes on his face instantly showed a look of shock. The next moment, he saw an extremely domineering figure forcefully breaking through the clash of the two level 6 talismans, appearing directly before his eyes. What? The man was instantly filled with horror. A huge cauldron covered in countless black patterns immediately flew out from above his head. There was a clang. A green saber slashed at the cauldron that had just flown out. Immediately after, a huge furnace burning with golden flames landed with a bang. The huge cauldron of the demonic man was completely suppressed. Before he could recover from this sudden turn of events, he felt a fist, engulfed in roaring flames, brutally strike his body. Instantly, his chest and abdomen were pierced through. The white and golden flames, as if possessing a will of their own, promptly incinerated the man with demonic runes into a pile of ashes. Tear. At the same time, in the high sky, the two clashing level 6 talismans also determined a winner. The surface of the constellation talisman showed a long crack, while the purple-red talisman was riddled with dense, spider-web-like fractures. As a gust of wind swept through, the purple-red talisman instantly disintegrated into powder and vanished. Die. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan's voice suddenly echoed in the ears of every perfected lord of the human race. Upon hearing his voice, everyone, including Su Qingchen, could not help but shudder. In the next moment, everyone began to join forces to chase after the remaining nascent soul demonic cultivators. Jiang Chengxuan took the lead. Wherever he passed, a nascent soul demonic cultivator was sure to fall. After everyone eliminated all the nascent soul demonic cultivators in the area, their gaze towards Jiang Chengxuan was no longer just shock, but deep reverence. Clearly, no one had anticipated before coming here that Jiang Chengxuan's strength had already reached such an extraordinary level. And even his trump card was unexpectedly formidable. He even had level 6 talismans. No wonder he had the boldness to set up such a plan. At this moment, everyone's gaze involuntarily shifted towards Jiang Chengxuan. Without any unnecessary words, Jiang Chengxuan pointed his deep earth halberd towards the demonic heart array in front of him, then said to everyone, "Dear fellow Taoists, I'm sure we haven't forgotten the purpose of our coming here, which is to break this array in front of us. Only by breaking this array can we have a slight chance of winning in this great battle. So, next, please join me with all your strength to break this array." As he spoke, Jiang Chengxuan took the lead. He threw out hundreds of array flags, arranging them in a specific order. At the same time, he didn't hesitate to use the temporary array enhancement reward given by the system. In an instant, Jiang Chengxuan's array cultivation rose from level 5 to level 6. Various insights about arrays flooded his mind. Many things that he couldn't understand before were quickly figured out with the help of the system's reward. Shriek. In a moment, various array materials appeared in Jiang Chengxuan's hands. With the burning of the pure Yang True Fire in his palm, those array materials were quickly turned into array flags and array discs, emitting an aura completely different from that of level 5. After he threw all the array flags and array discs into the ground, and formed an extremely special array around the demonic heart array. The entire demonic heart array shook for some reason. Oh no! Inside the demonic heart array, dozens of nascent soul demonic cultivators, feeling the shaking of the array, all showed a look of panic on their faces. This was the first time they felt besieged since coming to this world. In the past, it was they who besieged the cultivators of this world, treating them as prey. But now the roles were clearly reversed. What should we do? Someone asked anxiously. A man named Night Stalker, with peak nascent soul cultivation, spoke solemnly. Everyone, don't panic. You must know, this demonic heart array is set up by our lords together. It borrows the power of the demon-infested land beyond the heavens. I can assure you, no matter how powerful that person outside is, as long as he is not a level 6 array master and has not reached the realm of soul formation, he absolutely cannot break our array. Hearing his words, the anxious nascent soul demonic cultivators seemed to remember something. Their previously panicked expressions finally calmed down. Yes, the lords had said before. Unless the other party has the realm of soul formation and is also a level 6 array master, there's no chance to break their demonic heart array. Now, although that person's strength is surprisingly strong, he is obviously far from the realm of soul formation. Even if he really has the cultivation of a level 6 array master, he can only cause some minor impact on their demonic heart array. To completely break it is absolutely impossible. At the same time, outside the demonic heart array, as Jiang Chengxuan used various array flags to form a special array around the demonic heart array, the entire array seemed to be completely cut off from the outer world. Everyone could clearly see. The endless demonic chi between heaven and earth seemed to lose its source and suddenly began to stagnate. It was like a flowing river suddenly becoming dead water. So much so that everyone present felt their dharmic power flow more smoothly. However, if Jiang Chengxuan wanted to use this method to completely destroy the demonic demon heart array in front of him, he seemed to be missing something. This made him realize that this should be related to his current cultivation. With the combat power of peak nascent soul, it was clearly not enough to shake the foundation of the demonic heart array with the array he had set up. Perhaps the other party had calculated this, which is why no one came out to confront them. It seems that they believed that as long as they hide in the demonic heart array, neither Jiang Chengxuan nor anyone present could do anything to them. But is it really that simple? Since he brought a group of nascent soul cultivators here, he had enough confidence to break the demonic heart array. With this in mind, Jiang Chengxuan's voice transmission suddenly sounded in everyone's ears. Everyone, I'll try to break through the demonic heart array later. When the array is broken, I hope you can join me in killing all the people inside as quickly as possible. Then we will leave this place at once. Does anyone have any questions? Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, everyone present looked at each other. Then they all shook their heads lightly, indicating no problem. If before this, they were asked to join Jiang Chengxuan in slaying dozens of nascent soul demon cultivators of the same level, they would have thought Jiang Chengxuan was crazy. But after the recent battle, everyone clearly realized one thing. That is, Jiang Chengxuan's strength can no longer be measured by the standards of a nascent soul cultivator. Although he has not yet reached the heights of soul formation, compared to these nascent soul cultivators, he is already on a different level. So, no one felt that there was anything wrong with what Jiang Chengxuan said now. The only question was whether Jiang Chengxuan could really completely break the demonic heart array. As it turned out, everyone had underestimated Jiang Chengxuan's methods. Right after he finished speaking, Jiang Chengxuan suddenly took out a pill from his body and swallowed it without hesitation. It was the tenfold pill he had obtained from the system earlier. A pill that could temporarily increase his combat power tenfold without any side effects. Boom! As soon as the tenfold pill was ingested, a thunderous roar erupted from within Jiang Chengxuan's body. At the same time, a powerful aura bright as the sun surged from his body. In just a moment, everyone's hearts were overwhelmed by shock and awe. This aura, it seemed there was not much difference anymore between him and a soul formation heavenly lord. Even if there was, it was certainly not much. How did Jiang Chengxuan achieve this? Could it be related to the pill he had just taken? But what kind of pill in this world could increase someone's strength so much in an instant? There was no time for everyone to think more. As Jiang Chengxuan's aura reached a certain peak, the deep earth halberd in his hand suddenly grew rapidly. In the blink of an eye, it grew to 1,000 feet in size, resembling a towering mountain. However, this mountain was filled with a murderous aura, sharp and unstoppable. Break! Without the slightest hesitation, Jiang Chengxuan, holding the deep earth halberd, fiercely swung it towards a specific location in the demonic heart array. Phew! A piercing whistling sound suddenly filled everyone's ears. At the tip of the deep earth halberd, a collapsing vortex suddenly formed. It was like a high-speed spinning turbine. At its center, tiny spatial cracks were faintly torn open. Although they were just tiny, that scene was enough to show that Jiang Chengxuan's attack had clearly reached the level of soul formation. Anger. Squeak squeak. Dazzling flames shot out. Accompanied by those tiny pitch-black spatial cracks, the foundation of the entire demonic heart array seemed to be shaken at that moment. Everyone clearly saw a bowl-sized opening pierce straight on the surface of the purple-black array. But it was just such a small opening, yet it caused the entire array's light screen to start shaking violently. Rise! At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan swiftly cast several spells with his hand. The array flags that Jiang Chengxuan had thrown out earlier seemed to be empowered by some force at this moment. In midair, multicolored circular halos suddenly intertwined and then wrapped around the demonic heart array. Crack, crack, crack. Like an egg being forcefully squeezed. Everyone was shocked to see the level 6 demonic heart array showing signs of collapse. First, one array eye spontaneously shattered. Then the second, third, and fourth followed, until there were more and more. The entire array, in an instant, looked like shattered porcelain, with countless huge openings appearing on the purple-black light screen. Boom! At that instant, Jiang Chengxuan's deep earth halberd fell again. And this time, it was like the last straw that broke the camel's back. The entire demonic heart array suddenly collapsed like a row of dominoes, shattering into countless light spots. Die! At the moment, the demonic heart array was broken. Shenruyan Su Qingqian, perfected Lord Windcloud, Sword Lord Azure Blue, and the others launched their attacks as well. In an instant, terrifying thunderstorms and fierce sword chi raged like a storm. 6 or 7 nascent soul demon cultivators who failed to react in time were killed on the spot. The remaining dozens of nascent soul demon cultivators were also in a dire state. 3 flames suddenly appeared in front of Jiang Chengxuan. They were Ruby Flame, the True Sun Fire, and the Pure Yang True Fire. As Jiang Chengxuan continuously formed spells with his hands, these 3 flames instantly merged. Suddenly, an extremely violent and terrifying aura burst out from the merged flames. A fireball containing white, gold, and red colors, like a spinning meteor, shot towards the remaining nascent soul demon cultivators in an instant. And this was the new divine power that Jiang Chengxuan had comprehended in the past 28 years. Or rather, it should be called the newly upgraded Yin and Yang Divine Flame, now known as the Trigram Divine Fire. Rumble! A pure red-white fire suddenly rose in the sky. Carrying a mighty force that seemed to burn away all the impurities of the world, the fire blazed and blazed again in the sky. Kai, 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 kai. The void was instantly filled with vast patches of charred blackness. The nascent soul demonic cultivators standing under the fire were helpless. In just a moment, more than 10 nascent soul demon cultivators were reduced to ashes. Boom! An even more violent blaze shot up to the sky. At this moment, above and below the heavens, in all directions, all darkness and demonic clouds seemed to be cleansed away. Within thousands of miles of the sea area, it instantly turned into a pure gold color. Above the 9 heavens Gingfeng realm, the 7 demon lords who were fighting Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain, Heavenly Lord Purple Flame, Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean, and Heavenly Lord Xuan Yang suddenly sensed the change in the Nova waters below, and their expressions changed. Wicked Moon suddenly conjured a sinister blood-colored half-moon in front of him, intending to descend towards the Nova waters. However, right at this moment, a sharp and domineering sword light burst forth and shot towards the blood-colored half-moon. There was a tearing sound. The half-moon was instantly cut in half. Heavenly Lord Xuan Yang suddenly chuckled and said, "Wicked Moon, what are you doing? Didn't we agree earlier that we would fight our own battles and not interfere with what's happening below? Why, just in a short while, you're already going back on your word." Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain, Heavenly Lord Purple Flame, and Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean instantly blocked the other 6 demon lords. Xuan Yang is right. As soul formation, we shouldn't interfere in the affairs of the younger generation. As they spoke, the 4 human heavenly lords suddenly took the initiative to attack. This made the expressions of the 7 demon lords turn extremely ugly. Their eyes instantly became incomparably sinister. "Human heavenly lord, you asked for it." Boom! The sky cracked. Surging demonic flames like a vast ocean instantly erupted around Xuan Yang and the other 3 heavenly lords. In an instant, the battle between the 2 sides fell into the most intense stage. In the Nova waters, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan suddenly looked up. At this moment, the 2 of them seemed to have sensed something, and their expressions suddenly became very solemn. Even Su Qingqian, perfected Lord Wind Cloud, Sword Lord Azure Blue, and the others seemed to have sensed something and looked into the sky instantly. There, they could clearly feel the terrifying fluctuations, even from an endless distance. Anger too. It seemed that Jiang Chengxuan's action had truly enraged the 7 demon lords. Everyone couldn't help but look at Jiang Chengxuan with a hint of worry. However, Jiang Chengxuan's expression remained unchanged. He spoke slowly. "Let's go. We must not waste the time the heavenly lords have won for us. Trust in them just as they trust in us. In this demonic calamity, our human race will prevail." With that one sentence, the spirits of all the nascent souls present were immediately uplifted. The next moment, everyone including Xianxia resolutely echoed his words. In this demonic calamity, our human race will prevail. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Following their words, Jiang Chengxuan and the group of perfected lords immediately set off towards other areas where nascent soul demon cultivators were present. In just a few months, Jiang Chengxuan led everyone, continuously battling in dozens of crucial areas and consecutively slaying dozens more nascent soul demon cultivators. At this moment, news of Jiang Chengxuan's fearsome reputation had spread throughout the entire Nova waters. Wherever they went, all demon cultivators fled in panic. However, Jiang Chengxuan now seemed like a god of death incarnate. Almost no demon cultivators, especially those of the nascent soul stage, could escape from his hands. Up to now, the number of nascent soul demon cultivators who had died in Jiang Chengxuan's hand was close to 100. But only Jiang Chengxuan knew that he was still 4 short of his goal. Fortunately, filling these 4 slots was not a difficult task, because at this moment, they were once again facing 5 nascent soul demon cultivators. Without any superfluous words, Jiang Chengxuan immediately targeted 4 of them. These 4 were clearly aware of Jiang Chengxuan's terror. So as soon as they saw Jiang Chengxuan and his party, they had no intention of engaging them in combat. Intense demonic qi rose from their bodies as they intended to flee. However, how could Jiang Chengxuan let them escape at this time? Suddenly, a huge rock shadow swept across the sky. The next moment, Jiang Chengxuan seemed to transform into a cold, unfeeling war machine. With each flicker of his figure, the body of a nascent soul demon cultivator in midair would explode into a cloud of blood mist. After 4 consecutive flickers in the air, the 4 nascent soul demon cultivators had all fallen. Ding! At the same time, a familiar electronic voice suddenly sounded in Jiang Chengxuan's mind. "Congratulations, host. You have killed 100 nascent soul demonic cultivators. You have obtained a level 6 pure yang true treasure, the Demon Cleaver Spirit Sword, a deduction bead, and 3 opportunities to train in a special cultivation space." Demon Cleaver Spirit Sword. As the name suggested, this sword had an extremely powerful demon-slaying attribute. When dealing with demonic cultivators or demonic creatures, it would have a huge increase in power. The effects of the deduction bead were self-explanatory. But it was the special cultivation space opportunity that piqued Jiang Chengxuan's interest. According to the system, this special cultivation space was completely independent of the main world. Training there not only provided enhancements in cultivation speed and comprehension, but also the flow of time in this space was different from the main world. No matter how long you cultivate inside, even if it's for 10 years, 100 years, or 1,000 years, only 1 day would have passed in the outside world. In theory, as long as your lifespan is sufficient, even training for 10,000 or 100,000 years in that space is possible. However, in practice, unless your cultivation level reaches that realm where you have that long lifespan, shutting yourself away for 1,000 or 10,000 years is almost impossible. Not to mention that the cultivation resources you brought were limited. After breaking through a bottleneck, it was very difficult to cultivate to the next bottleneck without sufficient comprehension. If you really cultivated to the next bottleneck without the corresponding opportunity, no matter how long you cultivated, it would be meaningless. It would only be a waste of time. Moreover, if one's cultivation level was not at the void returning realm, they would not have such a long lifespan to cultivate in seclusion. On Jiang Chengxuan's end, just as he received the system reward, Shen Ruyan had already killed the remaining nascent soul demon cultivator. Thus, most of the nascent soul demon cultivators appearing in this demonic calamity were slain by Jiang Chengxuan and his group. The remaining ones, frightened by Jiang Chengxuan's terrifying strength, all went into hiding, daring not to show themselves. This finally enraged the 7 demon lords in the 9 heavens Gangfeng realm. Wicked Moon, disregarding an attack from Heavenly Lord Purple Flame, launched a blood-colored lunar attack towards Jiang Chengxuan. This strike was both swift and fierce, catching even Heavenly Lord Purple Flame and the others off guard. By the time they reacted and attempted to intercept, it was already too late. The 7 demon lords united to block the Heavenly Lords, making it impossible for them to break through their blockade immediately. On the other side, just as Jiang Chengxuan and his companions finished clearing the battlefield, they were shocked to see a massive blood-colored moon, with an immensely terrifying and evil aura, crashing down towards them, specifically targeting Jiang Chengxuan. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan could feel that the blood-colored moon had sealed off all his avenues of escape. Even using the extreme speed of the rock, he could not escape the pursuit of the blood-colored moon. This was because the opponent was not using mere speed or strength, but something related to spatial rules, which Jiang Chengxuan did not possess. So, his only option was to confront it head-on. There was no other way. However, before he could act, several nascent soul cultivators suddenly displayed blood-colored lines on their skin, as if possessed by something extremely evil, turning their aura exceedingly sinister and their eyes blood-red. Oh no! When Su Qingchen, perfected Lord Wind Cloud, Sword Lord Azure Blue and the others saw this, their expressions changed drastically. Black Square, that's the blood moon contamination of Demon Lord Wicked Moon. We must guard our minds and inner power, not letting any evil thoughts invade, or else our souls might be infiltrated. Shriek. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan's figure suddenly created dozens, even hundreds of afterimages, scattering in all directions. However, the blood-colored moon, as if it could discern his true body, quickly pursued him as he flew away at the extreme speed of the rock. As it drew near, Jiang Chengxuan could clearly feel the space around him solidifying, his range of movement shrinking. He knew he couldn't continue like this and had to act before the space around him was completely sealed off. With this in mind, Jiang Chengxuan took a deep breath and swallowed another tenfold pill. At the same time, he took out the level 6 constellation talisman again. Buzz! Instantly, countless stars light fell from the sky, forming a 360-degree barrier around Jiang Chengxuan. Jiang Chengxuan then used the 5-colored divine light and activated the demon-slaying talent to shoot the trigram divine fire at the blood-colored full moon. That was not all. After this, he also took out the Azure Emperor's heaven-slaying saber, the demon-suppressing fist technique, the 5-colored aureola, the eternal scorching sun furnace, and the golden void sword. Formation, the fury of heaven and earth's will. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Jiang Chengxuan finished all his preparation, a series of explosive sounds erupted from the void. The first to bear the brunt was his constellation talisman. Under the relentless assault of the blood moon, the already present cracks on the talisman's surface became more pronounced and dense. Eventually, the talisman which had once helped Jiang Chengxuan defeat the Eclipse Godslayer talisman reached its end. With a cracking sound, it collapsed into powder, dissipating into thin air. Fortunately, its sacrifice wasn't in vain, as the blood moon, originally as large as a star, had shrunk in size. Following this were the various divine powers unleashed by Jiang Chengxuan under the enhancement of the tenfold pill. 5-colored divine light, Azure Emperor's heaven-slaying saber, demon-suppressing fist technique, trigram divine fire, as well as his intrinsic true treasures, the eternal scorching sun furnace, and the golden void sword. These attacks would have pulverized any cultivator below soul formation, but they had limited effect on Demon Lord Wicked Moon's blood-colored moon. Although it shrank further under these attacks, it didn't disappear and continued its deadly descent towards Jiang Chengxuan. A sense of anger and urgency rose in his heart. Jiang Chengxuan took a deep breath and gestured to Shen Ruyan and others not to intervene. He then drew out the recently acquired level 6 Pure Yang True Treasure, the Demon Cleaver Spirit Sword. Buzz! At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan channeled all his dharmic power into the Demon Cleaver Spirit Sword. Instantly, an incredibly sharp aura burst forth from the sword, releasing a blinding light like daylight. Jiang Chengxuan quickly utilized the dharmic power stored in the yin-yang divine water jade, infusing it into the sword. Boom! The sword's radiance intensified, becoming even more dazzling. It was also at this moment that Jiang Chengxuan suddenly felt that his spirit seemed to have been fused into the Demon Cleaver Spirit Sword with the dharmic powers he had just exerted, so much so that he immediately felt dizzy. Fortunately, the demon cleaver spirit's sword did not disappoint him. With a single strike, the blood-colored full moon that shocked everyone was split into two. The blood that filled the sky was instantly washed away by the scarlet and white sword light. Not only that, but the powerful sword intent shot straight into the sky, piercing into the nine heavens Gangfeng realm. Demon Lord Wicked Moon, engaged in battle with Xuan Yang, suddenly sensed the impending danger from below. Without hesitation, Wicked Moon transformed into a streak of moonlight to evade the impending danger from below. Unexpectedly at this moment, Heavenly Lord Xuan Yang seized this opportunity. With a swift motion, as Wicked Moon dodged the slash from the Demon Cleaver Spirit's sword, a more ferocious sword light slashed across his body. Arg! Accompanied by a scream, an arm was severed in midair, quickly disintegrating into nothingness under the relentless sword light. Damn it! Wicked Moon's expression instantly turned extremely dark. At this moment, the expressions of Mad Dragon and Blood Sea not far away changed. Not good. The will of heaven and earth of this world is about to awaken. Hearing this, the remaining four demon lords' expressions also drastically changed. They knew that when their supreme being broke the barrier of this world and sent them here, the will of heaven and earth of this world was in a weakened, almost slumbering state. However, just now, they clearly felt that the will of heaven and earth in this world seemed to be reviving. As a result, their movements in this world began to become difficult, although it did not affect them from fighting enemies of the same level for the time being. They believed the situation would worsen over time, as the rejection and suppression from the worlds will intensify. If this continued, they would face only one outcome, being annihilated by the four human heavenly lords. They needed to inform the Supreme Being and find a way to return. Otherwise, staying here posed a real risk of falling. Just as the seven demon lords were about to act, the human heavenly lords exchanged glances. In the next moment, Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean sneered. Why do you want to leave just like that? Since you're all here, why in a hurry to leave? Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the four of them stood in four directions, blocking the path of Wicked Moon and the others. At the same time, 9 waterfalls that were like rivers of stars suddenly rose from the 9 heaven starfall array below and instantly appeared around the 4 human heavenly lords. Seeing this, the expressions of Wicked Moon and the others changed again. The 9 heaven starfall array, you can already mobilize the power of this array. Formation, the fury of heaven and earths will too. He surprised, aren't you? Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain smiled. We 4 have been able to harness the power of this array for several months. Now, we just waited for the right moment, one that would give us an overwhelming advantage over you. As soon as he finished speaking, Everlasting Mountain, Purple Flame, Xuan Yang, and Infinite Ocean stopped hesitating. The 4 of them began to channel their dharmic powers with all their might. In the sky, 9 dragon-like star rivers transformed into glowing ropes, ensnaring the 7 demon lords. Kai 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 kai. At that moment, endless light erupted around the demon lords, signaling their impending destruction. Damn it! The 7 demon lords couldn't maintain their composure anymore as they began to frantically attack, hoping to break through the array. However, the suppression from this world will made them unable to unleash 100% of their strength. Coupled with the power of the 9 heaven starfall array, they had already fallen into an extremely dangerous situation. Below, in the Nova waters, Jiang Chengxuan and his allies, having cleared their dizziness, felt the full force of the 9 heaven starfall array being activated. Above the 9 heavens realm, waves of terrifying aura spread out. Su Qingqian, perfected Lord Wind Cloud, Sword Lord Azure Blue, and the others could not help but narrow their eyes. Could it be that Shifu and the others want to rumble? Before they could finish their thoughts, brilliant flame and thunderous roars came from above. Everyone looked on without blinking. They had already guessed what was going on. Tear. Suddenly, one of the star rivers was shattered by a burst of purple-black light. Before they could process this, an incredibly bright light shot up, eventually exploding into a shower of spiritual rain, signifying the disappearance of a powerful and terrifying aura. At this moment, everyone understood that a soul formation demon lord had fallen in the battle above. However, they did not know which demon lord it was. Boom! After a while, a similar scene occurred. Another star river broke apart, accompanied by the fracture of a pitch-black demonic blade. Again, a downpour of spiritual rain followed. That's the second one. The group felt a mix of excitement and worry, unsure of the exact situation above and the safety of their seniors. Boom! Suddenly, an even more intense explosion occurred. Crack! This time, two star rivers in the high sky shattered, accompanied by a resentful roar. Everlasting mountain, you actually self-destructed your intrinsic pure yang. True treasure, I'll wait for you in the nether world. I want to see how much lifespan you have left. Buzz. Following this proclamation, a blood-colored moon crashed down. Everyone recognized that the fallen demon lord was none other than Wicked Moon, who had previously attacked Xianxia. Boom, boom, boom. At that moment, the entire Nova waters seemed to shake violently, signaling a monumental shift in the ongoing battle. Especially in the curved sea, pitch-black flames appeared in the void. An aura that was completely different from this world poured out. Yang Chengxuan and the others couldn't help but narrow their eyes. Could that be? Before they could think further, a huge palm phantom that looked like white jade stretched out from the black flames and grabbed everyone above the 9 heavens realm. In an instant, a terrifying aura emanated from the jade-like hand, causing an indescribable fear in everyone present. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan managed slightly better, but the rest, including Su Qingchen, were visibly shaken. More than half of them trembled uncontrollably. It had to be known that the weakest among them was at the 4th level of the nascent soul. However, when such a group of people faced the white jade palm phantom, they felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. It was as if they had seen their nemesis. Not to mention resisting, they did not even have the slightest thought of escaping. They could only stand there in a daze and let the white jade palm phantom crush them to death. Fortunately, the target of the white jade palm was not them. Instead, it was the soul formation, heavenly lords in the 9 heavens realm. Helaza, it's the Supreme Being. The Supreme Being has come to save us. Mad Dragon suddenly laughed crazily. He looked at the 4 human heavenly lords opposite him and said with a ferocious expression, "You're finished, all of you are finished." Rumble. However, just as he finished speaking, the entire realm seemed to erupt in fury. Countless lightning, flames, and astral winds bombarded the white jade palm phantom. Crack, crack, crack. In an instant, countless cracks immediately appeared on the white jade palm. This was the world's will taking action, refusing to allow such a foreign and overpowering force to exist. Destruction, it had to be destroyed at all costs. Boom, boom, boom. The entire world seemed to have gone crazy. Countless forces that were enough to destroy a soul formation, heavenly lord blasted towards the white jade palm phantom, without caring about the safety of those still present. Whoosh! Under such assault, the powerful entity behind the jade palm couldn't maintain it for long. The palm grabbed the remaining demon lords and quickly retreated into the dark flames. Just before leaving, it flicked a massive jade finger towards Purple Flame, Everlasting Mountain, Infinite Ocean, and Heavenly Lord Xuan Yang, with power surpassing soul formation level. No matter how Purple Flame, Everlasting Mountain, Infinite Ocean, and Xuan Yang resisted, they could not defend against it. Fortunately, the other party's actions once again angered the will of the world. The world summoned numerous thunderbolts, flames, and storms that swept towards the jade finger. Boom, boom, boom. Bang, 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 bang. The white jade finger quickly dissipated under such an onslaught. However, just as it completely dissipated, a wisp of remnant power still arrived in front of Purple Flame and the other 3. This time, though still powerful, it was within the capacity of the heavenly lords to defend. Xuan Yang prepared to unleash his attack when Purple Flame stopped him, choosing to handle it himself. Fellow Taoist Xuan Yang, you're still young. Leave this to me. As soon as he finished speaking, a palace that was burning with endless purple sun heavenly flames suddenly appeared in front of him. It was his intrinsic pure yang true treasure, the Purple Sun Heavenly Palace. In an instant, endless purple sun heavenly flames poured out of the treasure. At this moment, there was a sudden explosion in the 9 heavens realm. The last bit of strength left in the white jade finger collided fiercely with the Purple Sun Heavenly Palace. Rumble! An extremely terrifying sound suddenly came from the 9 heavens realm. For a moment, the winds in this realm seemed to stand still. But soon, Everlasting Mountain, Infinite Ocean, and Xuan Yang witnessed the purple flame heavenly palace, summoned by heavenly Lord Purple Flame, shatter into countless specks of light, dispersing in the sky. Even Purple Flame himself was severely injured in the collision, his body almost torn in half. Fellow Taoist Purple Flame. The expressions of heavenly Lord Xianxia and the others changed drastically. They did not expect the residual power of the attack to harbor such danger. No wonder heavenly Lord Purple Flame wanted to help heavenly Lord Xianxia. He didn't want heavenly Lord Xianxia to lose his Tao foundation because of this. Cough, cough, cough. I am fine. Heavenly Lord Purple Flame coughed violently, spitting out blood with each cough. The others were deeply concerned. No one knew better than them that heavenly Lord Purple Flame's injuries had already damaged his foundation. His lifespan would probably be greatly reduced, like heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain. Or even more. Let's go. The great battle is over, and we should be happy. This is the first time we've ended a demon calamity as victors. Heavenly Lord Purple Flame smiled at the three of them. However, at this moment, his originally black hair instantly turned snow white. This made the expressions of Heavenly Lord Xianxia and the other two change again. Heavenly Lord Xianxia grabbed Heavenly Lord Purple Flame's hand, his expression turning grim. Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain and Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean looked at him inquisitively. Heavenly Lord Xianxia took a deep breath and said, "Fellow Taoist Purple Flame, you should have foreseen that outcome just now, right? I, Xianxia, will remember this kindness in my heart. In the future, if you or the Purple Sun Palace need anything, I will definitely do my best." At this point, he turned to Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean and said, "Fellow Taoist Purple Flame has suffered foundational damage to shield me from that attack, and now his lifespan is less than 100 years. What?" Hearing this, Everlasting Mountain and Infinite Ocean were visibly shaken. Despite their prior suspicions, hearing the confirmation from Xianxia still brought a sense of sorrow. No matter what, Heavenly Lord Purple Flame was a comrade who had experienced 2 demonic calamities with them. Including this time, it would be 3 times. Their bond was deeper than many could understand or imagine. Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean said, "I still have 2 sacred blue fruits that can increase your lifespan by 500 years. I'll send them to you." Heavenly Lord Purple Flame smiled and waved his hand. "You can give them to fellow Taoist Everlasting Mountain. He also lost a significant amount of his lifespan in this battle. As for me, there's no need. Keep it for yourself, don't waste it on me." "What do you mean?" asked Infinite Ocean, Everlasting Mountain and Xianxia Tianjun, their expressions turning serious. Heavenly Lord Purple Flame said calmly, "I'm injured by the laws this time round. Unless I can remove the nomological powers in my body, no matter how many spirit items there are to increase my lifespan, they won't be of any use to me." Injured by the laws. Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean and the other two felt their hearts tighten. They had not expected Heavenly Lord Purple Flame's injuries to be related to the laws. Yes, with the strength of the white jade palm phantom just now, it was normal for it to contain some law force. However, in that case, it was indeed as Heavenly Lord Purple Flame had said. If he could not remove the nomological power in Heavenly Lord Purple Flame's body, it would be useless no matter how many spirit items he consumed. However, in the current cultivation world of the 9 essences, there was no one who could remove the power of laws. This was because, for a cultivator to possess such an ability, his cultivation had to reach void returning to be able to comprehend the complete laws. There was no other way. At this moment, Heavenly Lord Xianxia, Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean, and Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain all had ugly expressions. However, Heavenly Lord Purple Flame did not seem to care at all. He was still smiling as he said, "After all your years of cultivation, haven't you seen through the impermanence of life? Let's go. Don't keep the youngsters waiting. We have many things to deal with in the aftermath." With these words, Heavenly Lord Purple Flame was the first to descend towards the Nova waters. The other 3 exchanged glances and followed, leaving the 9 heavens realm. At this moment, in the Nova waters, with the disappearance of the Jade Palm's phantom, the dark flames that had appeared around the curved sea vanished completely. Moreover, other areas that had shown black fissures also returned to normal, signaling the end of the tumultuous events. Calamity battle ends too. Even the demonic chi in the world began to thin out, showing signs of dissipating. This marked the end of the demon calamity for the human race. This made Jiang Chengxuan and the others heave a sigh of relief. They were now assured that for the next 1,200 years, such a catastrophe wouldn't reoccur. Looking up towards the nine heavens realm, they saw four formidable figures. They were Heavenly Lord Purple Flame, Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain, Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean, and Heavenly Lord Chu and Yang. However, the sight of Heavenly Lord Purple Flame's white hair and the aura of decay emanating from him deeply saddened everyone. It was evident that he had suffered a grave injury during the battle. As a result, he did not have much lifespan left. Shefu Yu, perfected Lord Windcloud, and the other cultivators from Purple Sun Palace flew forward immediately. They looked at Heavenly Lord Purple Flame anxiously. However, Heavenly Lord Purple Flame smiled and shook his head at them. "It's fine, I'm fine." As he spoke, he looked at Jiang Chengxuan with a smile and said with admiration, "Young friend Jiang, I was right about you that day. You really didn't disappoint us all." As soon as he finished speaking, Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain, Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean, and Heavenly Lord Xu and Yang turned to look at Jiang Chengxuan. They all nodded at him with an extremely solemn expression. Clearly, the three of them knew that Heavenly Lord Purple Flame was right. Jiang Chengxuan proved himself worthy of their trust. It was not an exaggeration to say that the reason why the human race could win this demonic calamity was entirely because of Jiang Chengxuan. If he had not led everyone to kill more than 100 nascent soul demonic cultivators, if he had not led everyone to break the demonic heart array, if not for him protecting many key array eyes, it was impossible for the human race to win this demonic calamity. Senior Purple Flame, you flatter me. Jiang Chengxuan shook his head. The main reason why we were able to win this demonic calamity is because of the selfless sacrifices of the seniors. If not for you blocking the 7 soul formation demon lords for all of us, no matter how capable we are, it's impossible for us to do anything. Jiang Chengxuan was fully aware of his role in the battle, but also recognized that the victory hinged on the 4 heavenly lords. It was them who helped block the 7 demon lords. Only then would they have the possibility to carry out their plan. Only then would it be possible to tip the scales in the human race's favor. At this moment, the human race had won. However, despite the victory, the losses were also tremendous. Firstly, it was Heavenly Lord Purple Flame's injury. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan could feel it very clearly that his life force was burning rapidly. At this rate, it seemed unlikely he would live another 100 years. This meant a significant decrease in the overall strength of the northern border's human race for a long time. Although they still had 3 soul formation heavenly lords, Heavenly Lord Chu and Yang was newly advanced and was by no means on par with Heavenly Lord Purple Flame, even if he had a lot of potential in the future. In terms of current strength, there was still an insurmountable gap. Moreover, Heavenly Lord Purple Flame was not the only one injured in the battle. In fact, the 4 heavenly lords were all injured to varying degrees. However, compared to them, Heavenly Lord Purple Flame was the most serious. Next was Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain. Previously, in a decisive moment, he had sacrificed his own intrinsic true treasure in order to slay Wicked Moon. For him, a heavenly lord, destroying his own intrinsic true treasure was a deeply consequential and crippling act. It could be imagined that in the next few hundred years, Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain could no longer use his full strength, nor could he exert his peak combat power. With that in mind, the situation of the human race in the northern border in the next few hundred years was really not optimistic, unless a new soul formation heavenly lord was born during this period. However, how could such a thing be so easy? Even Jiang Chengxuan and his Dao companion, Shen Ruyan, were not absolutely confident. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan looked at the demonic cultivators in the distance who had yet to leave the 9 essences immortal world, and could not help but say to the 4 heavenly lords, "Seniors, although our human race has already won this demonic calamity, however, there are still many remnants of demon cultivators lingering. Please allow us to go and exterminate them, to put a definitive end to this war." Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, the 4 heavenly lords present could not help but smile and nod. "Go, remember to be careful." Yes, Jiang Chengxuan and the others accepted the order. At that moment, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, Su Qingchen, and the others led a group of nascent soul cultivators and an army of cultivators to start cleaning up the remaining demonic cultivators. This extermination took several years. After Jiang Chengxuan and the others eliminated all the remaining demonic cultivators they could find, the battle of the demonic calamity officially came to an end. It was at this moment that everyone could clearly sense that a mysterious aura had descended on them. Many of them had a breakthrough in their cultivation under the effect of this strange aura. For example, perfected Lord Flowing Snow, perfected Lord Star Sea, perfected Lord Vast River, and the two South Sea immortals advanced from the mid-stage nascent soul to the late-stage nascent soul. Even the early-stage nascent soul cultivators like Tang Beisheng advanced to mid-stage. Moreover, everyone's foundation was incomparably firm and solid. Moreover, this was only the beginning. In the future, as they cultivated, this aura could still play a huge role. It was not an exaggeration to say that it had only been a short while, but there were countless cultivators, from qi refinement to nascent, who had had a breakthrough. Even the four soul formation, heavenly, lords received great benefits. The injuries Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain suffered from self-destructing his intrinsic pure Yang true treasure quickly recovered. Heavenly Lord Chuan Yang and Heavenly Lord Infinite Ocean also sensed an opportunity to break through. Only Heavenly Lord Purple Flame's injuries did not improve. However, his essence, qi, and spirit would remain at their peak for the rest of his lifespan. It would only dissipate on the day he passed away. The state of Jiang. Mount Mystic Tai. Shunaming Peak. There was a creaking sound. The door of the cave abode where Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were cultivating slowly opened. At this moment, several years had passed since the end of the demonic calamity. In these years, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan made another breakthrough and reached the 8th level of nascent soul. In addition, they had also used the rewards obtained from this war and their own accumulation to successfully refine a large number of cultivation resources. This included nascent soul cultivation pills and nascent soul condensation pills that were enough to make any golden core cultivator fight over it crazily. There were also several level 5 true treasures with extraordinary effects. Congratulations, Shifu. Your cultivation has broken through again. You are a step closer to soul formation. Just as Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan walked out of the cave abode at the same time, Jiang Anren, who had been guarding outside, immediately smiled and bowed. Seeing Jiang Anren, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but smile. After the demon calamity battle, Jiang Anren had grown rapidly. Now, her cultivation had reached the 9th level of golden core. With some more training and experience, she would be ready to attempt the breakthrough to nascent soul. In fact, not only Jiang Anren, but also other members of the Jiang and Shen families who had survived the demon calamity had made significant gains. The Jiang family in particular had several new golden core cultivators, including family head Jiang Reni, his younger brother Jiang Renquan's daughter Jiang Yunru, and Huang Linger, who resided with the Jiang family. Among them, Huang Linger did not participate in the demon calamity. Breaking through to golden core had nothing to do with this demon calamity. The reason for her advancement to golden core was so unusual that people might not believe it if they heard about it. It was achieved through teaching in the Tao Seeking Academy. As she taught, her cultivation began to advance by leaps and bounds. In the end, in an almost inexplicable yet seemingly natural progression, she formed her golden core right there in the classroom. Furthermore, the quality of the golden core she condensed had actually reached high grade. It was about the same quality as Jiang Anren's golden core. Even Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were amazed by Huang Linger's unique progression. Shen Ruyan, with her vast experience spanning 2 lifetimes, had never encountered anyone like Huang Linger. Huang Linger's teaching abilities not only enhanced her cultivation, but also improved the quality of her lectures. Moreover, her foundation was extremely solid. Everyone who came to her class and listened to her teaching would receive varying degrees of enlightenment. In one notable incident, a student achieved foundation establishment right in her classroom, causing a sensation at the Tao Seeking Academy. At this moment, wherever Huang Linger taught, it would definitely be filled with people. Sometimes it even extended to a path or a tree outside the classroom. The scene was truly spectacular. Anren, this is for you." At that moment, Shen Ruyan took out 2 jade bottles and handed them to Jiang Anren with a smile. It was the spiritual object that all golden core cultivators dreamed of forming their nascent soul. Nascent soul cultivation pill and nascent soul condensation pill. "Thank you, Shifu." Jiang Anren immediately put it away with a happy expression. "By the way, did anything happen while we were in seclusion?" Jiang Chengxuan looked at Jiang Anren and asked with a smile. "Have Reni, Renchuan, and the others come out of seclusion?" Long before they entered seclusion, Jiang Reni and the others, who had advanced to Golden Core, were already in seclusion. Now a few years had passed. It should be about time they came out. Jiang Anren nodded. Reni and the others came out of seclusion 2 years ago. They are currently dealing with some follow-up matters of the war. After the demonic calamity ended, Jiang Chengxuan and the others obtained many post-war rewards from the Purple Sun Palace, the Black Sea Pavilion, and the Everlasting Palace. While the rewards greatly increased the foundation of the Jiang family, it also greatly increased the cultivation and strength of many people. Now, as the master of the state of Jiang, the Jiang family, it was about time to distribute the rewards to those who had contributed. According to Jiang Anren, that was what Jiang Reni and the others were doing. It was also worth mentioning that after returning to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion from the battlefield, Gu Yuefeng had been cultivating in seclusion for several years. It was naturally to break through the bottleneck of nascent soul. So far, no one had received any news that he had come out of seclusion. "Well, Shifu." At this moment, Jiang Anren seemed to have thought of something, and there was a hint of hesitation on her face. However, in the end, she still said, "It's said that Martial Aunt Rushwang and Martial Uncle Beifei seem to have failed to break through to Golden Core." Huh? Hearing Jiang Anren's words, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's expressions changed. Shen Ruyan asked, "How are they doing? Are they all right?" Jiang Anren replied, "I think they're quite injured. Their vitality is also severely damaged. They might not be able to attempt to break through to Golden Core again in the future." At that moment, Shen Ruyan's expression darkened. Jiang Chengxuan sighed in his heart. Actually, they had expected something like this a long time ago. As their cultivation continued to advance, one day, their old friends and family would leave them one by one. This was something that even they could not change. After all, not everyone's talent, opportunity, and temperament were like theirs. Take Shen Rushwang and Shen Beifei, for example. The former had rarely experienced battles in the cultivation world. Most of the time, she stayed in the family to refine pills or study alchemy. As for her cultivation, it was forcefully accumulated bit by bit through consuming resources. Under such circumstances, even with the help of many core formation spiritual items, it was very difficult to overcome the tribulation. It was natural for failures to occur in cultivation. As for Shen Beifei, his early years of numerous conflicts had resulted in many hidden injuries, compromising his physical condition. His age, declining vitality, mental state, and the strength of his spiritual energy made it difficult for him to reach the peak state required for a successful breakthrough. Even with life-extending elixirs, it was hard to compensate for certain deficiencies. Of course, the most important factor, however, was the lack of opportunity. It's worth noting that Shen Yuanlong was in an even worse state than him back then. However, in the end, he succeeded in forming the core. What did this mean? This demonstrated that Shen Yuanyang's fortune and opportunities far surpassed Shen Beifei's, compensating for his shortcomings. The elusive nature of fate and opportunity made it impossible to predict outcomes until the very last step. It was a matter of destiny. After discussing various other matters, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, a few days later, visited the Shen family to see Shen Rushwang and Shen Beifei. After that, they personally went to the Ganyang sect and delivered the nascent soul cultivation pill and the nascent soul condensation pill to Zheng Pelong. At this moment, Zheng Pelong's cultivation had already reached the 9th level of Golden Core. However, according to him, he did not have much confidence in breaking through to nascent soul. Treasures like the nascent soul cultivation pill and the nascent soul condensation pill would only be wasted in his hands. However, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan still insisted on giving him the treasures out of gratitude. It was for no other reason than the fact that Zheng Pelong had once protected them. When Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan returned to the Jiang family, The family head, Zhang Reni, immediately came over and reported everything he was dealing with to the two of them. Yang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded approvingly. Keep up the good work. If there's anything you're not sure of, you can tell us. Suddenly, the couple sensed something and turned their gaze towards the sky. There, a graceful figure was swiftly approaching their place. Recognizing the visitor, both Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan smiled. Shen Ruyan commented, "Husband, it looks like we will finally obtain what we have been waiting for." "Yeah." Jiang Chengxuan also smiled and nodded. "Let's go. It's rare for an esteemed guest to come. Let's take the initiative to go out and welcome her." After instructing Zhang Reni about some matters, he and Shen Ruyan went out to meet their guest. The visitor was Xianxia, their comrade during the Demon Calamity battle and now the Grand Elder of Everlasting Palace, as well as the direct disciple of Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain. As Xianxia saw Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan approaching, she slowed down her flight and greeted them with a smile and a fist salute. "Fellow Taoist Jiang, fellow Taoist Shen, long time no see. How have you been?" Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan returned the salute, smiling. "Thanks to Fairy Su's well wishes, we've been quite well. Why don't you join us at our home for a while?" Hearing this, Xianxia did not refuse. She immediately smiled and nodded. "Then I won't stand on ceremony. Sorry to disturb the two of you." As they spoke, the three of them descended at the same time. Then, under the guidance of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, they arrived at their guest hall. After a disciple of the Jiang family served the spiritual tea and left, Xianxia took out a letter and handed it to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. "This is a recommendation letter, personally written by my Shifu. With this letter, you can directly enter the Sunset Secret Realm in the Eastern End, and you won't have to hand over 30% of your gains usually required upon exiting the realm." Long before the battle of the demonic calamity, Jiang Chengxuan had exchanged information about the whereabouts of the Wood-Earth Ganoderma from Pei Daoki of the Mingjin sect. It was in the Sunset Secret Realm of the Eastern End. This realm, managed by various soul formation forces of the Eastern End, opened once every 300 years, and outsiders had to pay a hefty price to enter. Additionally, they were required to hand over 30% of their gains upon leaving, unless they had a recommendation letter. After the battle of the demonic calamity, Xianxia remembered that Jiang Chengxuan and the others might need it, so she took the initiative to promise them that her Shifu, Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain, might be able to help. Now was the time for her to fulfill her promise to Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. Looking at the recommendation letter, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan couldn't help but look happy. Jiang Chengxuan immediately reached out to take the recommendation letter and said gratefully, "Thank you, Fairy Su, for asking Senior Everlasting Mountain for this. I'll have to trouble Fairy Su to thank Senior Everlasting Mountain for us later." "Hee, fellow Taoist Jiang, you're too polite." Xianxia nodded. "I'll convey your thanks to my Shifu," she said. Then her expression became more serious as she continued, "However, there's something I need to remind you about. The few soul formation forces in the Eastern End are not as united as the ones in the northern border. On the contrary, their relationship is rather bad. Moreover, the people on their side look down on the cultivators of the northern border. If you go, remember not to get involved in anything between them, just do your own thing." Hearing this reminder, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan nodded solemnly. "Thank you for your reminder, Fairy Su. On this trip to the Eastern End, we only want what we want. Other than that, we will not cause trouble." In fact, they had a deeper understanding of the situation in the Eastern End. They knew that it was the second strongest region in the 9 essences, world apart from the Central Plain. The overall strength of the cultivators was far stronger than that of the northern border, including the number of soul formation Heavenly Lords. It was several times more than theirs. It was also because of this that the Eastern End cultivators were arrogant. Other than cultivators from the Central Plain, they didn't take cultivators of the same level from the other regions seriously. So, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't want to have too much contact with the cultivators there on this trip. They had even thought that, when necessary, they would enter the Sunset Secret Realm in disguise. In the following time, Xianxia then told Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan some details that they might need to pay attention to. When it was about time, she stood up and bade farewell. Not long after Xianxia left, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan suddenly looked in the direction of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. There, a vast and powerful aura was slowly rising. This made Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan realize immediately. The Supreme Elder, Gu Yuefeng, who had been in seclusion for a long time and was trying to break through to nascent soul, was probably about to succeed and come out. At this moment, Jiang Anren, Tang Beisheng, and some other golden core cultivators of the Jiang family also sensed the commotion from the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. Including the other sects and families in the state of Jiang, all of them turned their attention to the Jade Water Sword Pavilion. For a moment, the entire Jade Water Sword Pavilion was mobilized. In order to avoid any possible accidents, Hu Dambai even gathered the golden core elders of all the sects and prepared to protect Gu Yuefeng. At the same time, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. Jiang Chengxuan said, "Wife, let's bring Anren and the others over to take a look. No matter what, fellow Taoist Gu is our friend. He has helped us a lot in the past. This time he is about to break through to nascent soul. In order to avoid any accidents, let's go over and help." Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's words, Shen Ruyan nodded in agreement. "Okay, then let's bring Anren and the others over." Without further delay, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan flew towards the Jade Water Sword Pavilion with Jiang Anren, the Supreme Elder, Tang Beisheng, and Jiang Rendao. Arriving at the eastern end. No matter the time, a cultivator's breakthrough to nascent soul is always a momentous event, especially for a sect without any nascent soul cultivators. No matter how much value a sect put into it, it was only right. Such was the case with Jade Water Sword Pavilion. The sect had a tight grip over a radius of 3,000 miles, and any unfamiliar or foreign cultivators within this range were strictly expelled. Amidst such security measures, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, accompanied by Jiang Anren and others, arrived at the gates of Jade Water Sword Pavilion. Hu Dambai, who was in charge of related matters, heard that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were here. While he was shocked in his heart, he could not help but reveal a pleasantly surprised expression. He knew very well that since Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were here, Gu Yuefeng's breakthrough would not be disturbed by any external forces. After all, not everyone wanted their Jade Water Sword Pavilion to have a nascent soul cultivator. As for why Hu Dambai was not worried that Jiang Chengxuan and the others would stop Gu Yuefeng from advancing to nascent soul, the reason was very simple. That was, Jiang Chengxuan's character had already been recognized by all the cultivators in the state of Jiang. Coupled with their past friendship, Hu Dambai believed that Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were definitely the most trustworthy people. At this moment, the spiritual qi within 10 miles of Jade Water Sword Pavilion was frantically converging towards Gu Yuefeng's cave abode. Jiang Chengxuan took a brief look and then said to Hu Dambai and others, "Get ready. Fellow Taoist Gu is about to come out of seclusion to transcend the tribulation." Boom! Indeed. As soon as Jiang Chengxuan finished speaking, a dull thunderous roar emanated from the sky, followed by the rapid gathering of dark clouds. At that moment, a spiritual pressure far surpassing that of a golden core cultivator surged out of Gu Yuefeng's cave abode. The next instant, Gu Yuefeng, carrying a treasure sword, appeared before everyone. Jiang Chengxuan immediately took out 3 level 5 defensive talismans, the Vajra Shield talisman, from his body and threw them at Gu Yuefeng. "Fellow Taoist Gu, take these 3 Vajra Shield talismans. They might be helpful for your upcoming tribulation." This was also a level 5 talisman, drawn by Jiang Chengxuan himself. Gu Yuefeng clearly did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to give him such a precious talisman. And it was 3 at once. He immediately nodded at Jiang Chengxuan with a solemn expression and said gratefully, "Thanks a lot." With that, he quickly flew towards the deserted mountain in the distance. Seeing this, Jiang Chengxuan, Hu Dambai, and the others immediately followed. They only stopped when they were about 1,000 miles away from the place where Gu Yuefeng was transcending his tribulation. Unknowingly, the faces of the cultivators of the Jade Water Sword Pavilion were filled with nervousness. Hua Minju couldn't help but ask Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, "Senior Jiang, Senior Shen, will my Shifu be all right this time?" Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan smiled and nodded. "Don't worry. In our opinion, fellow Taoist Gu's breakthrough this time has a very solid foundation. In addition, with the 3 Vajra Shield talismans, there shouldn't be any problems." Jiang Chengxuan paused for a moment before continuing. Fellow Taoist Hua, I've told you many times that you, Pavilion Master Hu, and the others are all our friends. In the future, let's continue to address each other as fellow Taoists. As he spoke, Gu Yuefeng's tribulation had already begun. Lightning bolts one after another struck down from the clouds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Just as Jiang Chengxuan had predicted, Gu Yuefeng's breakthrough to nascent soul was on solid ground. The heavenly tribulation did not pose a significant threat to him, at least not the initial strikes. It was only from the sixth strike of the tribulation that Gu Yuefeng started to feel significant pressure. By the seventh strike, he began to get injured. Fortunately, the Vajra shield talismans that Jiang Chengxuan had given him earlier helped him withstand the last and most difficult 3 strikes of the tribulation. Once the dark clouds dispersed, the sky showered purifying spiritual qi, aiding Gu Yuefeng's rapid recovery from his injuries. At this point, Jiang Chengxuan and others approached to congratulate him. Jiang Chengxuan handed over a jade slip to Gu Yuefeng, saying, "This jade slip contains various information about nascent soul cultivators, including trade fairs, nascent soul sects, and families. I believe it will help you understand some relevant situations. Since you've just broken through to nascent soul, you'll probably need to go back and consolidate your cultivation. We won't disturb you any further. When we have time in the future, we can sit down and discuss the Tao together." With that, Jiang Chengxuan, Shen Ruyan, and the others didn't linger any longer and returned to Mount Mystic Tai. Upon returning, Jiang Chengxuan informed Jiang Reni and others of their upcoming journey to the eastern end, as the time for the opening of the Sunset Secret Realm in the east was approaching. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan needed to reach there before the opening of the realm, arriving at the eastern end too. Otherwise, if they missed this opportunity, they would have to wait another 300 years to enter the Sunset Secret Realm. Jiang Reni, Jiang Anren, and the others all expressed their understanding. At the same time, they also promised Jiang Chengxuan that they would manage the family well and not let anything happen to the family or the state of Jiang. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were quite confident in them. Subsequently, the couple did not waste much time. About 3 days later, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan quietly left the state of Jiang without alerting anyone. More than 10 days later, they arrived at the massive cross-region teleportation array that leads from the northern border to the eastern end. The array was guarded by nascent soul cultivators from the Everlasting Palace and Black Sea Pavilion, 4 in total. They cordially invited Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan to the esteemed guest waiting area. Normally, the teleportation array to the eastern end would not be activated for another 10 years, but they had received prior notification from Su Qingchen and others. So, in the following time, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't wait too long in the waiting area. About a day later, the couple boarded the super-large teleportation array that led to the eastern end. With a buzz and a feeling of intense dizziness, when they looked again, they found themselves in front of a huge, unfamiliar teleportation array. At this moment, the two of them had disguised themselves. Their cultivation was also suppressed to the mid-stage of nascent soul. A surprised voice came from nearby. Turning, they saw 7 or 8 nascent soul cultivators dressed in various sect and family robes, looking at them curiously. A middle-aged man in a yellow robe with a yellow maple leaf pattern engraved on the hem of his robe could not help but say in surprise, "Are there so few people from the northern border this time? Only 2. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan recognized that the man was a nascent soul cultivator from the powerful Eastern End sect, the Maple sect. It was said that this sect was very powerful. They boasted 2 soul formation heavenly lords and over 30 nascent soul cultivators, a strength almost unimaginable in the northern border. It was no wonder that the cultivators of the Eastern End looked down on the cultivators of the northern border. The difference in strength between the two sides was indeed not small. "Hey, which sect are you from in the northern border? Why have you come to our eastern end?" A man in a white robe with a small sword engraved on the hem asked Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan calmly. Judging from his outfit, he was a cultivator from the soul formation sect of the eastern end, the Radiant Sword sect. There were also 2 soul formation heavenly lords and more than 30 nascent soul cultivators in the sect. Everyone present looked at Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan with interest, as if they were watching a good show. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan didn't expect to encounter such a frustrating thing as soon as they arrived at the eastern end. What did their purpose of coming to the eastern end and their origin have anything to do with these people? Why we are here doesn't seem to have anything to do with you, right? Shenruyan frowned and asked, "You're in charge of guarding the teleportation array here, but that doesn't mean you have the right to interrogate us." These words immediately made the white-robed man's expression darken. Clearly, he did not expect the other party to be so rude to him, a cultivator from a soul formation sect. He failed to consider the provocativeness of his initial inquiry and saw their blunt reaction as an affront to Jiang Chengxuan and his wife's dignity. In his opinion, the couple was intentionally embarrassing him. He sneered and said bluntly, "Of course it does. I suspect that you might be the remnants of demonic cultivators. If you know what's good for you, come with me to my Radiant Sword sect to be interrogated. Otherwise..." At this point, the white-robed man and another man who was also wearing a white robe but had the mark of a small sword between his eyebrows stood in front of Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan. "Don't blame us for being rude to you." Seeing this, the yellow-robed man and the others clearly had no intention of getting involved. However, they all looked like they were watching a good show. It was as if the scene in front of him was exciting. At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan's expressions finally darkened. Before coming to the eastern end, they knew that the cultivators from the soul formation sects in the eastern end were all arrogant and did not take cultivators from other places seriously at all. However, they still did not expect that the arrogance of these guys had completely exceeded their expectations. What else was there to say? Yang Chengxuan spat out 2 words coldly. "Get lost." "What did you say?" The expressions of the white-robed man and the man with the small sword mark between their eyebrows turned extremely cold. However, before they could inquire, Yang Chengxuan was the first to attack. His index and middle fingers were like swords as he gently slashed at the white-robed man and the other man. Swoosh! In an instant, an extremely dazzling sword light suddenly burst out from Jiang Chengxuan's fingertips. The white-robed man and the other man did not even have time to react. Their bodies were sent flying by the sword light. A series of loud rumbles could be heard. The bodies of the white-robed man and the other man smashed into mountains in the distance. Wherever they passed, smoke and dust rose continuously. The yellow-robed man and the others were dumbfounded. They did not expect Jiang Chengxuan to possess such strength. With just a bare-handed strike, he defeated 2 mid-stage nascent soul cultivators from the Radiant Sword sect. Was he really a cultivator from the northern border? Since when did the northern border have such a powerful cultivator? "I'll kill you." Suddenly, a furious roar suddenly came from the dust in the distance. Immediately after, 2 figures that were like sharp swords suddenly sped towards the teleportation array. When they approached, the yellow-robed man and the others suddenly realized. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, who had been near them a moment ago, were nowhere to be seen. This was no small matter. It had to be known that everyone present had reached the mid-stage of nascent soul. Normally, even a grand cultivator would find it difficult to leave silently without alerting them. But now, this unbelievable thing had happened. What did this mean? This meant that the 2 people just now were at least in the late-stage nascent soul. Although everyone present had the background of a soul formation sect, under normal circumstances, they would not take some ordinary nascent soul cultivators seriously. But they still had respect for grand cultivators. Thinking about how they had put on airs in front of the 2 nascent soul grand cultivators just now, the yellow-robed man and the others could not help but gasp. If they were unlucky, they would have been killed by the other party. Even if their sect could avenge them in the future, it was meaningless to them, who were already dead. Thank goodness, thank goodness. The couple seemed to be sensible people. Otherwise, the white-robed man and the other would not be just injured. It was very likely that they would lose their life. World-modifying plans. On the other side, having left the scene, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were in a sour mood. Shen Ruyan remarked, "It seems the cultivators of the eastern end are even worse than we thought." Jiang Chengxuan nodded in agreement. "Since that's the case, we might have to modify our plans, especially the way to enter the Sunset Secret Realm. If possible, it's best if you and I don't expose our true identities." "Well, husband, you mean?" Shen Ruyan's heart skipped a beat. She looked at Jiang Chengxuan in surprise. Jiang Chengxuan nodded again. I suspect that Senior Everlasting Mountain's recommendation letter might not be of much use. It might have the opposite effect. We will also expose our identities unnecessarily. It wasn't that they had done anything wrong when they asked Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain to write a recommendation letter for them. It was just that their understanding of the Eastern End was too limited. If they used that letter rashly and revealed their true identities, they might become targets for certain individuals. The couple believed that there was nothing these people wouldn't do. From what happened just now, these guys seemed to have long forgotten what reverence was, especially those cultivators from Soul Formation sect. They might not be afraid of you just because you have a Soul Formation Heavenly Lord behind you. At most, they would not target you openly. However, in the dark, who knew what these people would do? Then, husband, what do you plan to do next? Jiang Chengxuan thought for a moment and said, First, we'll disguise ourselves again and gain a more detailed understanding of the Eastern End's cultivation world. Once we're ready, we'll try to sneak into the Sunset Secret Realm together. As long as our disguises are good, there's nothing to fear. Even if a Soul Formation Heavenly Lord comes, as long as they're not in the mid-stage, we should be able to escape unscathed. It was obvious that Jiang Chengxuan had considered the worst-case scenario. Shen Ruyan had no objections. Soon, the couple changed their appearance and suppressed their cultivation to the early-stage nascent soul. Ordinary nascent soul cultivators, even late-stage nascent soul cultivators, would find it difficult to see through their disguise. A few months later, Eastern End, the state of Beihao, Cloud Sea Inn. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan, now disguised, arrived at the top floor of the inn. There, a man with a goatee greeted them warmly. You must be fellow Taoist Jiang Chuan and Fairy Shen Yan, right? At this moment, Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan no longer used their real names. Instead, they changed to Jiang Chuan and Shen Yan. After several months of in-depth investigation, they realized the chaos in the Eastern End was worse than they had imagined. The few soul formation forces dominated, monopolizing most of the cultivation resources. The remaining nascent soul sects and families were mostly subservient to these forces. There was no need to mention the Golden Core, Violet Palace, and Foundation Establishment cultivators. They no longer had freedom or autonomy. Even if they demanded your Tao companion to serve them in their chamber, you had absolutely no room to resist. You could only endure it obediently. At this moment, the couple looked at the goateed man. Jiang Chengxuan said, Shopkeeper Yang, did you help us get what we wanted? The goateed man called Shopkeeper Yang couldn't help but laugh. With me around, there will naturally be no problem with obtaining just a recommendation letter. However, shouldn't you? He hinted at something without finishing his sentence. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan looked at each other. Then Shen Ruyan casually threw a storage ring to Shopkeeper Yang. Shopkeeper Yang did not stand on ceremony. He inspected the high-grade spirit stones in the ring, his face beaming with satisfaction. It's been a pleasure doing business with you. Here are your recommendation letters. With these, you can enter the Sunset Secret Realm. At that time, you only need to take out these 2 recommendation letters to enter the Sunset Secret Realm. Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan took the recommendation letter from Shopkeeper Yang. They only took a look at it before their expressions darkened. Jiang Chengxuan suddenly looked up at Shopkeeper Yang and said in a gloomy tone, Shopkeeper Yang, I don't think this is what we wanted. Back then, you promised us that you would help us get 2 grade A recommendation letters. 1. We paid for a grade A recommendation letter. But what about now? You only gave us a Grace C recommendation letter. Can you please explain to us what exactly is going on? In the recommendation letters for entry into the Sunset Secret Realm, there are 4 grades, A, B, C, and D. Grade A is the best, and Grade D is the worst. The former is similar in function to the recommendation letter written by Heavenly Lord Everlasting Mountain for them. The Grade B recommendation letter is significantly inferior. After exiting the Secret Realm, one needs to hand over 30% of their gains. For Grade C, it's 40%. And for Grade D, it's 50%, according to the price standards initially given by Shopkeeper Yang. The price of a Grade A recommendation letter is more than 10 times that of a Grade C letter. Hearing Jiang Chengxuan's questioning, Shopkeeper Yang's face still bore the same smile. He spread his hands in a manner that seemed apologetic yet indifferent and said, "I'm truly sorry, both of you. The grade A recommendation letters were taken by someone not long ago. This grade C letter was what I managed to save for you to the best of my ability." "Heh, so you mean we should thank you for this?" Shen Ruyan sneered. But shopkeeper Yang still smiled and shook his head. "There's no need for that. Honestly, I feel quite ashamed that things turned out this way. How about this? If I have a chance in the future, I will try to compensate you somehow. What do you think?" If one didn't know what kind of person this shopkeeper Yang was and the business ethics of the Cloud CN, they might really believe that he was genuinely apologetic. "No need for any compensation." Jiang Chengshuan's tone was indifferent. "We just hope you can return the extra top-grade spirit stones we paid you." Hearing Jiang Chengshuan's words, shopkeeper Yang's smile finally began to fade. His expression turned indifferent as he looked down at Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan from a superior stance and said, "I was showing respect by explaining to you just now. Now I hope you don't push your luck. Otherwise, the consequences, I believe, are something you can't afford." His words instantly turned Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan's faces ashen. They exchanged a look, took a deep breath, and then nodded heavily at shopkeeper Yang. "Very well, very good. We've said what we had to, farewell." With that, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan left Cloud Cian without looking back. 8. Seeing them leave, a figure suddenly appeared behind shopkeeper Yang. The figure said, "My lord, do you need me to follow and take care of those two?" A smile appeared on shopkeeper Yang's face again. He shook his head and said, "No need. It's rare to find such fat sheep. I'm counting on them to bring me even greater profits in the future." On the other side, Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan left the Cloud Cian. Their previously angry expressions instantly disappeared. Shen Ruyan said, "Husband, shall we head straight to the Sunset Secret Realm now?" Jiang Chengshuan nodded, "Yes, let's go straight there. With our speed, by the time we reach the Sunset Secret Realm, it should be just about time for it to open." "Yeah." Shen Ruyan also nodded. "But really, those people at Cloud Cian are quite daring to do such things. They took our money for a grade A recommendation letter, but what they gave us was only a grade C. It's like they've made fools out of us." "Heh, isn't that what we expected from the beginning?" Jiang Chengshuan laughed. "With these people's nature, how could they not try to scrape off a layer of profit from us? So, are we just going to let this go?" Jiang Chengshuan's eyes suddenly darkened. He slowly said, "Whatever they took from us, they have to return. Those spirit stones are just temporarily in the hands of Cloud Cian. At the right time, we will take them back with interest." As they spoke, the couple swiftly moved toward the Sunset Secret Realm. 2 months later, when Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan appeared on a vast black plain, they found it was already filled with many cultivators. There were no less than 100 nascent soul perfected lords, and many of them were in the late stages of nascent soul. Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan looked around and realized that many nascent soul cultivators were gathered in front of the nascent soul cultivators of the soul formation sects, flattering them in a very obsequious manner. This would be almost unimaginable in the northern border. The dignified, nascent soul perfected lords in the presence of their peers were showing such a lowly attitude, some even to the point of servility. However, in the eastern end, this seemed quite normal. Those cultivators from major soul formation sects seemed to quite enjoy the flattery from their peers. Eventually, a massive flying ship appeared in the distant sky, led by a man dressed in the attire of the Three Sun sect, one of the most powerful soul formation sects in the eastern end. The sect had 4 soul formation heavenly lords and more than 50 nascent soul cultivators. Among them, the most famous was Thunder Law, a perfected lord rumored to be on the cusp of reaching soul formation, making him one of the most influential figures in the eastern end, and the most likely to ascend to soul formation in the Three Sun sect. This man at the forefront of the flying ship was none other than Thunder Law, who was also responsible for overseeing the opening of the Sunset Secret Realm. "Greetings, perfected Lord Thunder Law." Upon the arrival of Thunder Law's flying ship above the crowd, many immediately bowed and paid their respects to him. This sight once again refreshed Jiang Chengshuan and Shen Ruyan's perspective. Despite Thunder Law's strong abilities, high cultivation, and extraordinary status, he was still a nascent soul cultivator. Theoretically, everyone's status was roughly equal, and interactions were generally on a friendly basis. However, what they witnessed was not so. It seemed more like a relationship between servants and their master. While Jiang Chengxuan and Shen Ruyan were sighing in their hearts, perfected, Lord Thunder Law had already landed from the flying ship. He floated above everyone and said indifferently, "Everyone, the opening of the Sunset Secret Realm will be jointly overseen by myself and Chu Guangli of the Chu family." The Chu family was another powerful soul formation force in the eastern end, with 3 soul formation heavenly lords and over 40 nascent soul cultivators. As for Chu Guangli, just like perfected Lord Thunder Law, he was also half a step into the soul formation. Just as he finished speaking, a huge flying ship also sailed over from the end of the sky in the distance. When the flying ship stopped above everyone, a young man in a blue robe slowly arrived in front of Thunder Law. It's been a long time. Fellow Taoist Thunder Law, you seem even more impressive than before." It was as if he did not see so many cultivators present at all. He directly struck up a conversation with Thunder Law. Thunder Law, unfazed, chatted with Chu Guangli for several hours until dusk fell. Finally, the two smiled at each other and finally turned their attention back to the crowd.